San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime year.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? And a happy Tuesday. Yes, it's Tuesday. I had to double-check that with Frank this morning because yesterday felt like a Sunday, which means today feels like a Monday, coming off a Memorial Day weekend. We are fired up to be here with y'all after missing 4 Padre games, obviously. There's been 4 games since the last time we were on the airwaves. It's always great to be talking Padres baseball with you here in America's finest city. Again, he's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's Home Sports Station, 97.3 The Fan. All right. Are we just going to hate on Manny Machado the entire show? Is that the goal of today?
Yep.
That must be the goal of today. I think we got to give him I mean, when it comes to Manny, we got to talk about how bad he has been, but also at the same time, everything's never as good as it is and everything's not as bad as it is. I will say this to just start off the show. I mean, yesterday was incredibly frustrating to watch from an offensive perspective. I mean, it really was. And this weekend I was moving, so I'm watching Padres baseball on a TV on a box. I'm like going all over the place. I'm listening to the game on the games on the radio. I'm able to go back and watch a lot of these games. But as I'm in the process of like lifting heavy things upstairs, my phone's blowing up about how we in the media got to just destroy Manny Machado because that's the only way he's ever going to be good. I honestly don't understand what people want us to say. He hasn't been very good. And I will say this. I cannot say anymore, you got to be patient with the start of the season because we are now a third of the way into the season and he has not made any type of progress in terms of offensive numbers. This is not anymore it's early for Manny Machado. This is how he usually starts. In fact, in today's daily newsletter by Kevin Acee, he lays out the fact that this is the worst start of this is the worst start to a season in 51 games that Manny Machado has ever had. Ever. It is the worst from an offensive perspective. And you could tell it's bothering him based on his at-bats. I mean, yesterday, I will tell you, his first at-bat yesterday, with the bases loaded and nobody out, yesterday, his approach at the plate, just based on his swings, what he swung at, and what the count was I got to pad my own stats because I am so bad right now. That was a selfish at-bat by Manny Machado in his first at-bat of the game. And the thing is, we could talk about he admitted it after the game. He didn't admit that it was a selfish at-bat, but he did admit that it wasn't what the team needed. He openly took responsibility post-game. Maybe that's the revelation that Manny needs to get going because offensively, the Padres have the worst offense in all of baseball. The worst. It is the worst. It trades between the Mets and the Padres when you go through all of the statistics that matter with batting average, OPS, whatever it may be. The Padres and the Mets are the worst. At least the Mets can make the excuse about Lindor missing time and Soto missing time. The Padres can't really make those excuses. They collectively are not hitting well. Individually, there's a couple of guys that have done very well. But even them right now, even they are not doing that well. Now, I think it's all about perspective. Manny through 51 games to start this season, a 170 average, a 265 on base, a 330 slug. That's the worst offensive start to a season of his career. And the Padres lack enough stars performing to absorb that kind of hit. Because I will say, Fernando in his last 9-10 games, whatever that on-base streak is, he's hit over 340 during that on-base streak. He looks like he's finally starting to feel a little bit more sound at the plate. Now, it's not leading to balls being hit over the fence, but at least he's starting to hit a little bit. Xander Bogaerts has come back down to earth after a good start to the season. He has had a rough month of May. Jackson Merrill has been awful at the plate. You can't even really highlight any type of situations in which he has done exceptionally well this season. Defensively, he's been great, but offensively, nothing. The team is being carried by the role players like a Ty France, like a Gavin Sheets, like a Miguel Andujar. I mean, Nick Castellanos is what he is. I mean, he's not going to hit for a high average right now. You picked him up because he was cut by Philly. I think he's done a good job in some clutch situations throughout the year. Yesterday wasn't very clutch, but I tell you what, he had been in previous games throughout the season. You're missing Luis Camposano right now. I mean, you're getting the best you can out of Rodolfo Duran in terms of offense. But offensively, the team's not very good. They're not very good, and they're not playing well. And I don't think it's really Steven Souza Jr.'s fault, because last year, everybody blamed Victor Rodriguez, and what are the Astros doing? Well, they're almost leading every single offensive statistical category. That's a team that's been awful this season, but offensively, those guys can rake. That was the hitting coach that we had last year that everybody wanted to blame for, again, another lackluster performance out of the Stars from the offense. And that was the big key going into the season, was got to get the Stars to star. If the Stars star, then the Padres are going to be okay. Well, the other big concern was the starting pitching. The starting pitching's actually been probably one of your better assets this season in comparison to anything else. You've had solid starting pitching. You've had a great bullpen, and the offense has been awful. It's been awful. And before you start thinking about maybe some changes to the team, because we've talked about this before and we've seen the updates, and we got some more updates from Bob Nightingale over the weekend about potential landing spots and trade targets and how do you improve teams and what the Padres are looking at, and none of it's hitting. And I think Tony Gwynn Jr. brought up a good point on Friday. Everybody that says we need a bat, that's fine. But what's the point in allocating resources to acquire a bat if the players that are in the lineup that are not producing are going to stay in the lineup because they're supposed to be your stars? If you were to bring in a bat, you would be replacing him. You would be using that player to replace the only players on your team that are actually putting something together offensively. If you were to go get a bat at the trade deadline, you would then have to insert that player into a position that is being held by a Gavin Sheets, a Ty France, a Miguel Andujar, a Nick Castellanos. What's the point? I agree with Tony in that sense. What's the point? You're not going to not play Merrill. You're not going to not play Machado. You're not going to not play Fernando. You're not going to not play Xander Bogaerts. I mean, those are the guys that are going to be playing every single day. There is nothing I can say. There is nothing Frank can say. There is nothing you tweet out into the ether or just spew out into the open that's going to do anything to change what those four players do at the plate. Not one. You can complain about it all you want. It's not going to lead to anything more than what they are physically doing themselves. They have to fix it. At least you got some acceptance, if you will, or accepting of responsibility from Machado yesterday as the Padres went 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. On top of the fact that Machado essentially admitted superstar players must carry offense in these moments. Also true. You're not going to add bats that's going to fix this problem. You're not going to change the bat. You're not going to change the hitting coach that's going to fix this problem. You're not going to move guys up and down the lineup that's going to fix this problem. You're not going to sit guys for more than 1 or 2 days max that's going to fix this problem. They have to fix it themselves. There is nothing else you could potentially do. And for all the people that go like, why are we continuing to do the same thing? Or that's baseball. That's what you have to do. I could sit here and say how much they are how bad they are playing. It's not going to make a damn bit of difference in the game. It's not going to matter. Frank can sit there and have a New York Mets style crash out about the team. It's not going to impact how they play. It's fun to get it off the chest. In terms of therapy, if you want to get it out there on social media and complain about it, it's fine. But it's not fixing any of the problems. These are not guys that you can just willingly trade. I saw this today on MLB Now. I thought it was rich. I thought it was such a reach by Brian Kenny. He was talking about how money doesn't really buy wins. Look at all these teams in these divisions that are leading. It's like, all right, dude, the American League Central? Yeah. The American League West? Two very bad divisions. But he goes on to talk about the youth movement. Look how great all these young guys are. And these young guys are just taking the world by storm. You don't need the stars. I don't know, Brian. Isn't that the same thing you said about 3, 4, 5 years ago when you had Fernando Tatis Jr. and Ronald Acuna Jr. and all these other guys? You can't constantly be flipping over your team with just 20-something-year-olds. Seems great in theory, but eventually, if you want to keep those guys, you have to sign them to contracts. That's what the Padres did. They kept those guys. They signed them to contracts. Now they have to go out there and perform at this age that they are, whatever it may be. But again, Manny Machado has not been playing well. Fernando is starting to hit a little bit more, but it's not putting the ball over the fence. Not for a guy that's, got the contract that he has. Jackson Merrill is hitting under 200, which is absurd to me. And there's really nothing you can do about it. They have to do it themselves. They have to fix this themselves. That all being said, Frank, what did we say at the beginning of this month? Before we started this month, what they needed to do during May and June to be in this thing.
I was just about to say, not even this month, this and next month, they had to be 500.
They had to be 500. What are they this month?
I think one game under.
They're one game over.
Oh, one
They're
game
12 and 11. They took 2 out of 3 from the A's. They lose yesterday. They're about 500 right now. On the homestand, I think maybe one game under when you include the Dodger games, right? Yeah, they're one game under 500 on this homestand. That's not the best that you're looking for. You want to see more, but this is the stretch that we continue to say was going to be a tough stretch. So they are doing what they need to do, wins and losses wise. It's being picked up by their pitching. They are not even going close to what they need to do offensively. It's almost a joke how bad it's been. And I don't have any answers, and nobody's got any answers. I don't know how this group collectively of hitters that have all seen massive success in their careers all consistently cannot hit the ball right now. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're paying attention to it too much. I mean, I thought Manny's at-bat yesterday, his first at-bat with the bases loaded and nobody out, where a ground ball, by the way, a double play scores a run, and he's swinging out of his shoes to try to put the ball over the fence, I think is a little selfish. He admitted that after the game. Not that it was selfish, but he admitted he needed to be better in that situation. I applaud that. I'm glad he admitted that. I'm glad he didn't say I wouldn't have changed anything. But it's frustrating for them. I know they're frustrated. I know they're trying to hit their way out of it. And there's only so much we could say about this, Frank. There really is.
And, I mean, Manny's been doing this all season. And like I said, if it wasn't for everybody's fixation on Fernando having not hit a home run yet, that was the best thing that could have happened to Manny, is the fact that we were talking about Fernando's, because it hid how bad Manny has been. He has been bad to start this season. And again, we rightfully so shrugged it off at the beginning because he always starts slow. But again, like you said earlier, it's not early anymore. He is at a career worse start to this season. And yesterday, I think, really highlighted just how bad he was when he comes up with the bases loaded and nobody out in the first inning and the Padres don't get a run. That is about as bad as it gets right there. When you have the bases loaded to start a game, you have Jesus Luzardo on the ropes right from the very beginning, and you don't put a run on the board, that's not great. And it started with Manny. It started grounding into a double play.
I'm going to tell you right now, too, like just for all of the people that blame the hitting coach and they go like, oh, based on what I'm watching, this is the approach. There is not a single hitting coach or baseball mind that thinks you should be swinging out of your shoes, bases loaded, with nobody out in a 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, whatever the counts were in that at bat. There is not a single hitting coach that's worth his salt that is going to say, we need to have home run swings in this particular situation. They all preach the same thing. And Steven Souza Jr. comes from a Rays organization that definitely preaches the whole pass the baton philosophy. He had time with the Dodgers that does the exact same thing, pass the baton philosophy. This is why I continue to say you can implement a game plan all you want. It's up to the players to execute that game plan and to want to do it. There's not one hitting coach out there that implements the approach that you saw Manny do in the first at-bat with bases loaded, nobody out. There's not one. And if there was one, I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way in hell that guy is employed by an MLB team. So for anybody that thinks that was Steven Souza Jr.'s fault, which is an easy, blame game deal, it's not. But I will say this, and this is a good point. You can't fire Manny Machado, but you can fire Steven Souza Jr. I don't know if that's going to do anything, and I'm not saying that's what they should do because they shouldn't.
It's not.
But the hitting coach blame is just getting old. This is like every time that they have any type of slump throughout the year. Now this is worse. That's not what I'm categorizing this as. But any time, any offense in baseball, I'm going to say any offense in baseball. We're just focused on the Padres. But anytime any offense in baseball struggles, which happens to everybody over the course of 162 games, it's immediate, got to get rid of the hitting coach. That's why the average tenure of a hitting coach for an organization is 1.5 years. It's the easiest person to replace. Padres went 2-2 since our last show. They took 2 out of 3 from the A's. They've had 2 losses in a row. Last game against the Athletics, first game against the Phillies. We will talk about all of that. There was a lot of good out of the weekend, too. The pitching staff was great. Griffin Canning made 2 mistake pitches. It's unfortunate. Lucas Giolito, he got off the scrap heap, too. Doing pretty well. The pitching staff starting to solidify. We keep talking about that. They're in a good spot. They're really carrying this team right now. The negative side, it's the offense. The offense has been rough. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Get your phone calls when we come back. Talk about the Padres weekend. Off and running on a Tuesday. Braden Surprenant Show, Static Urban Sports Station 97.3 The Fan.
San Diego FC heads into the international break with more questions than answers. They just lost 4-2 to Vancouver, and honestly, it felt like watching the difference between a Finnish contender and a team that's still very much under construction. Vancouver punished every mistake. San Diego made too many of them again, and once again, another red card. That is now 9 red cards in the last 19 matches this season. At some point, it stops being bad luck and starts becoming a real problem. The frustrating part, the talent is obvious. David Vasquez keeps improving. Brian Zambelli is only 18 and is already producing. Anders Dreyer continues to carry the attack, but every week it feels like San Diego takes another step forward and then 2 steps backwards defensively. Now this season basically resets during the World Cup break, and the summer transfer window might determine whether or not this club makes a playoff push or stays stuck in development. San Diego's FC hit another wall this past weekend against the Vancouver Whitecaps. First half of the season is officially over, and honestly, the timing for the international break could not be any better. San Diego heads into the pause after a 4-2 loss to the Vancouver Whitecaps at Snapdragon Stadium on Saturday. dropping them to 4, 5, and 6 on the season with just 17 points, a far cry from where this team was last year. Vancouver showed up this past weekend. This match felt like a reminder about where these two clubs stand. Vancouver still looks like the contender that knocked San Diego FC out of the Western Conference Final last year, and San Diego FC looks like a team that is trying to figure itself out. The Whitecaps controlled possession early, punished mistakes, and capitalized every time San Diego FC lost focus defensively. Veteran striker Brian White scored twice in the first half, while legendary German star Thomas Muller showed exactly why Vancouver brought him in. His movement, his vision, his calmness completely changed the game. Meanwhile, San Diego kept doing what has haunted them all season: turnovers in dangerous spots, defensive breakdowns, and costly disciplinary issues. The red card problem is officially a crisis. Yet again, another red card, this time Luca Bombino was sent off in the 72nd minute after picking up his second yellow card. Now that makes 9 red cards in 19 matches, and roughly 240 minutes have been played down a man this season. That is quite a lot, and it is not sustainable. Coach Mikey Varas did not hold back afterwards, either openly questioning MLS officiating and saying the league needs to, quote, take a serious look at how often teams are playing shorthanded. So it wasn't just him griping about San Diego FC's issue. It's about the officiating crews in the MLS in general and how many red cards are handed out to teams in the MLS. Now, some of the calls have been soft, but at a certain point, San Diego also has to look at themselves internally. You cannot constantly put yourself in vulnerable positions and expect positive results. Now, the bright spots do still exist, even though this rough stretch, the young core continues to keep flashing serious promise. David Vasquez scored again and continued developing into a legitimate attacking piece. 18-year-old Brian Zembele scored late in stoppage time, and Anders Dreyer added 2 more assists, bringing his season total up to 9. Dreyer continues to be the engine of this club offensively, and honestly, that's what makes this season so difficult to evaluate, because the talent is there. The talent is obvious. The attack is dangerous, but the mistakes, especially on the defensive end, continue to wipe out the entirety of the progress. So now the bigger picture is, this doesn't feel like a bad team. This still feels like a very good team. It also feels unfinished. San Diego FC has now just won 1 of its last 13 matches, and they've dropped completely out of the playoff picture heading into the summer break. But at the same time, they continue creating chances, they continue developing young players, and they continue competing against good teams for stretches. The problem is consistency. Elite teams punish mistakes. That's exactly what Vancouver did, and that's exactly what San Diego FC did last year that they are not doing this year. So what comes next now with the MLS? The most important stretch of the season, and maybe the most important stretch in the club history after last year's playoff run, because the summer transfer window is coming, and San Diego is in desperate need of reinforcements. They need more experience. They need more composure.
Broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. We have tickets to give away for the San Diego County Fair. It's returning to Del Mar Fairgrounds June 10th through July 5th. Details at sdfair.com. It's coming up close. I was talking to my friend about this. I think this week is like May 30th, 31st. It's not. That's next week. Memorial Day weekend is always, to me, it seems like it's like the last weekend in May. And usually it is around there. So this has got to be one of the earliest Memorial Day week. I mean, I felt like June was going to start this week, and it's not. So it's throwing me off a little bit. Because in a couple of Mondays, I will be off, but next Monday I will not. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. The chat's been on fire today on YouTube. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our YouTube channel at B_SURP at youtube.com. We will, it's fun. You know what? Reading the comments on there are pretty funny. I got to give Smash, you know what? You got to give Smash the credit today. Let the body language experts cook. That's hilarious. Come on, that's one of Smash the Numbers' best comments.
Yeah,
on YouTube.
that was a good one. That's
a, you know what? You got to give him. We got to give him a round of applause.
Give the devil his due.
Yeah, that was good. Oh man, that was a good one, Smash. Let's get to the phones. Got a lot of people ready to tune in.
Smarsh, what?
Yeah, Smarsh the Numbers today. It must be his burner. Let's get out to Tim in Miramar. You're on the Braden Surprenant show to start the week. What's going on, Tim?
Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing a lot better than the Padres offense, I can tell you that.
Hey, I agree, guys. There's nothing more that can be said. I feel for you guys because you got to fill 4 hours, and I feel for Stamen because there's nothing else he can do except play these guys. But the offense has been responsible for the failure in the playoffs last year. The offense was responsible 2 years ago against the Dodgers. And they got to figure it out. And I give Manny props for saying what he said because it, in a sense, takes the pressure off him. He can say to the media, hey, look, you read what I said. I know. And I got to give him props for that. It makes you want to root for the guy to turn it around. However, I think there's one spot in the offense where they can improve without affecting the rest of the team, and that's left field. They're only tied to Liriano the rest of this year. His defense is marginal at best. I don't owe him a lot of money, and that's the one spot where they can go do something at the deadline and improve this offense. And he can go to the bench or they can, whatever. But that, like you said, they're stuck everywhere else. There's nothing they can do, and you don't want to replace any of the guys who are doing the job. And, it takes away from Sheets in left field, but he can go back to, but that's the one spot. I've discussed this with my boys. It's the one spot where they can improve this offense. Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate the phone call, Tim. You have a good Tuesday. I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet. You gave up a lot to get him and Ryan O'Hearn here. I mean, they got to get, and he started off the season right, and then you put him in the leadoff spot, and then all things went downhill. I honestly think if you wanted to make a bat pickup, the only one that would make sense to me is if you attacked like second base and you found a second baseman of the future. That would be it to me. And then you would move Fernando back to right field. But, Fernando's been hitting a lot better at second base than he has in right field. We haven't looked at those numbers. I'm sure those are even drastically different now because he started at second base almost every game this weekend, didn't he?
Yeah, and he's 5 for his last 7.
Yeah, the guy's on a tear. Yeah, Yoran Alvarez. Yeah, that's a pipe dream there. That guy's getting paid a lot of money. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Carla in Chula Vista. Carla, what's going on?
Hi. I just wanted to say that I don't think it's a surprise that our pitchers are doing great because we have Stammen as our new manager. So, of course, they get that reassurance. They get those, those insights from all of his experience. And, of course, we're going to have outstanding pitching. However, I think where he falls a little short is that he's learning, and he'll learn how to relate to the hitting, right, to the Manny Machado and the Tatis. So I think also nobody has really thought about, lifestyle changes as far as, might be a little deeper because Manny has a new baby, right? And Tatis is getting married, right? So there's a lot of things going on. And I was just wondering if it's a balance issue because players' lives change throughout the season. And I think it's a balance issue that they kind of have to learn, how to balance their family life and their job.
Well, I appreciate the phone call, Carla. I mean, addressing some of the human elements of what these guys deal with. It's hard to just check that at the door to go out there and play baseball. I know it's your job and you got to be able to do that, but it's hard to do that sometimes. So, maybe that could be another factor. But at this point, it's been tough to see with the way this offense is played. You want to look at the Fernando splits? If they've been updated, I just saw them. Fernando playing, this is just this year, at second base, and Fernando playing right field. You want to take a guess what he's doing now at second base?
Was he hitting like 500 at second base now?
352 with an 847 OPS. In right field this year, he's hitting a .198 with a 512 OPS. I'm not saying I'm saying, That's the most bizarre split you're going to see in like all of Major League Baseball. Just how much better Fernando does playing second base, playing in the infield on the offensive side than playing in the outfield. He's got 82 plate appearances now as a second baseman and 140 as a right fielder. I think he's starting to heat up a little bit too. He's starting to warm up, if you will, just like Go Aztecs in the Twitch chat said. The home runs are still just the most baffling thing in all of baseball, but you know what? I got to go pull up the official numbers on Fernando because his last couple of games and really last like kind of a week and a half, he's been pretty solid. I mean, if you go back to his on base streak right now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Was it 9? It's 9 games. You look at his last 9 games, he's hitting 344 with an 837 OPS. Starting to hit a little bit better. He's getting on base again at a higher clip. His OPS is starting to rise. So hopefully that's a good sign for things to come. Let's get out to Kevin in Chula Vista. Kevin, what's going on?
Hey, Braden. Well, as the Manny and as the Fernando turns continues, and I understand the fatigue that I think is setting in with not only the players but the fans as well, because it's the same old. So there's no answers to any of this other than some of the obvious. We bought these long-term contracts, and I have to remind everybody, at the time, everybody was thinking this was the greatest thing since the second coming of Babe Ruth. So, this is what you live with long-term contracts. You don't know if players are going to continually perform up to their so-called back of the baseball cards, and when they don't, it's a problem. And that's where we're at right now, especially with Manny, who's 33 plus. You look at the tail offs that can happen to players that once they get into the 30s, some age faster than others. Look at what happened with Nolan Arenado, as an example. So, we just are we have no choice. We have to live through this because, we're stuck with contracts. We can't do anything with those. These players are here. We accepted it when they were signed. We thought it was great. We thought there would be multiple World Series that would come with this. To date, there have been none. That's what troubles me most, is that we bought a lot of long-term debt, and the return on this, aside from having some batting streaks that are impressive from time to time, when it has come to crunch time, playoffs, World Series, we're not there. They haven't delivered, and that's what troubles me the most.
Appreciate the phone call, Kevin. I mean, he probably hasn't seen what Nolan Arenado's done this year. Have you seen what Nolan Arenado's done this year?
No, it wasn't my week to watch him.
He's got an 804 OPS. He's got 126 OPS plus. Hitting 268. He's got 7 home runs. Must have found the fountain of youth in Arizona. But the thing with these long-term contracts, the reality is, do you want to keep young players or do you not? That's the question. Right, Frank? I mean, do you want to keep the guys that you have on your team for a long period of time, or do you want a brand new team every 3 or 4 years? Those are the options you have. So for all, it's never always going to be a guarantee that we have some young star player that he's going to be a star player every single year. The Cardinals right now have a lot of great young players, like a guy like J.J. Weatherhold, right? Not every one of those guys is going to put up big numbers throughout the entire course of their career. And they're going to have to make decisions and take calculated risk on whether or not they want those guys on their team in the long term. Or you could just be the Rays and you just jettison everybody that's not, as soon as their contract ends of their young players, like, see it, we're going to go with somebody else. That hasn't been a recipe for success either. They won't make it to the World Series. They haven't won one yet. But those are the conversations that have to happen. I mean, Tatis was supposed to be the guy that was like that every single year. And guess what? It's hard to do that every single year. That's what makes these guys crazy. And I think a lot of it is talked about. I think you see it in the NFL all the time with the way they overhype quarterbacks. You have one good year as a rookie quarterback, and all of a sudden it's like, this guy's going to be amazing. And then you have years where he's not very good. And instead of just letting the guy play his career out, you start making these comparisons, and then you set unrealistic expectations.
There are a lot of teams around the history of Major League Baseball that have spent money in an effort to win a championship. Most of them don't. That's the risk you take. That's the risk you take with doing it the Rays way. That's the risk of doing it. That's the risk you take when you're doing it the Dodger way. Just buying everyone, the Yankee way. World Series is not guaranteed. A championship is not guaranteed through any of these guys' tenure. You want it to happen. That's the expectation. You sign them when you're in a competitive window to possibly go for something like that, but it's not guaranteed.
Well, and the other thing, too, is when you sign these big deals, as we've mentioned before, you're going to get their best years.
Yes.
You are also going to get their worst ones, and they will have their worst years. I mean, it's very rare to find players that are going to be great the entire time of their existence. I mean, they're very few and far between. I mean, you look at a lot of the seasons for these star players. I mean, talk about Albert Pujols. And I'm not even talking about like his end of his years and like when he's 42 and stuff like that, which, by the way, when he was 42 and he played in 109 games for the Cardinals, he had 270 with 895 OPS. He still put together some decent years mixed in there. But you go back to when he was 33 years old, his second year with the Angels, he had 258, 767 OPS on that big contract, 17 home runs the following year. Bounced back at age 34. There's a lot of up and down. I mean, you're going to see that out of a lot of these players that you sign long-term. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Continue to talk about the Padres, their lack of offense. When we come back, we'll stick with your phone calls as well as we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show, Standing Room Sports Station 97 to the Fan. All guys, join us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bank Banking. It's better. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Lot to talk about on the show today. Obviously, most of it circling around the offense. We'll get to the pitching in just a little bit. It's been struggling. Padres been struggling on offense. Got one of the worst offenses right now statistically in Major League Baseball with the Mets. Mets have an excuse at least. They missed Soto and they missed Francisco Lindor for periods of time. Padres don't have that luxury.
Name on the front of their jersey is also a pretty significant debuff as well.
Well, you know, our jerseys say Mets, therefore we can't be competent. How about the Knicks, though, huh?
How about them Knicks, huh?
There's nothing crazier than watching the Knicks fans celebrate in the streets. Manhattan is going to burn to the ground if they win the finals.
Yeah, game one just completely broke Cleveland. I mean, they looked defeated in every other game after that. I mean, they stood no chance. After game one, they stood no chance, period. They were... I mean, you lose a 22-point lead in the final 8 minutes and then get dog walked.
Didn't we talk
overtime.
about that last week? Yeah, that's hard to overcome. That is very hard to overcome. Knicks in the finals. Frank's going to start repping all Knicks stuff. Hey, you know what's blue and orange?
It is blue and orange, yes.
The Mets sacrificed themselves for the betterment of the Knicks. You won't tell me otherwise. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Scout to Richard in Hillcrest. Richard, what's going on?
Good morning, guys. How are you? How are you guys doing?
A lot better than the Padres offense.
Definitely so. Yesterday's game was really tough to watch. I mean, that first inning just about killed it for the entire game. You know, I think we should stop talking about Tatis hitting home runs. Let's just focus on getting back to hitting the baseball, getting on base. There's so much more to his game offensively that he can do that I think we should let him focus on. The home runs will come. He's not a home run leader for the league anyways. So let's let him get back on base. You know, I think these guys just need to focus themselves individually. Like you said, it's up to the players themselves and what they need to do. All this talk that we do on the side is not going to do anything to change their game. They've got to change it themselves. I think they can. And, you know, the home record is not good this year. And that's something that concerns me a great deal, too, is their home dominance is just not there. And I don't know why.
Richard, appreciate the phone call. Their home, I mean, they got off to if I remember correctly, they got off to a slow start at home last year, didn't they? I mean, haven't they been like somewhat better on the road and then eventually like in
I think it's the other way around. I think they've been a lot better at home and then just complete dog on the road.
They're 16-14 at home this year, 15-8 on the road. I thought the last couple of years they had like good seasons on the road, and you're like, why aren't they playing this well at home?
I think it was the other way around, honestly.
It wasn't last year, it was like 2 years ago. They were just like doing so well on the road. But they rack up tons of home wins in like the second half of the season when they're playing a bunch of bad teams again. That's just how the season usually plays out for them. But I remember Padres fans complaining about that like a couple years ago. It's like, oh, why are they so much better on the road than they are at home? 2022, they were better on the road barely than they were at home in 2022. 2023, well, that was just kind of a rough year in general. They were better at home. 2024, it was pretty applicable, I'm pretty sure. Yep, they were better on the road in 2024 than they were at home. And then last year, they were actually better at home than they were on the road. But they started the season like really well on the road.
By the way,
he draws the foul.
Chat foul.
Oh, no. Is that on Smarsh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a foul. Absolutely. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Yeah, this year, Padres aren't doing as well at home as they have had on the road, and you want to play about 500 ball on the road and be able to take care of business at home. Right now, they're kind of doing the opposite. But you know what? That's why they're 31-22 this season. Let's get out to Frank in Rancho Mirada. What's going on, Frank?
How you doing, guys? I
Doing
just
well.
wanted to get my 2 cents worth in here. You know, for about 5 years, we've had to put up with that prima donna, Manny Machado. he's not a good example for youth when he doesn't run out ground balls, and he's just above that. Last night he hit that double play ball. It was not a hard hit ball. It had even hustling. It might have been a tied score. And we've been putting up with that with a guy that's been hitting well for years. Do we put up with that with a guy that's batting 170? And it's not exactly a brief slump he's in.
Well, appreciate the phone call, Frank. Speaking of Frank, do you want to tell us what his percentile is in sprint speed, which, by the way, is only calibrated when he sprints?
3.
The third percentile. That's not very good. He's one of the worst runners in all of Major League Baseball in terms of he's not very fast. Even if he did run things out, it's probably not going to matter. I'd rather have him in the line. I know it's hard to say now because the guy's not hitting very well, but I'd still rather have him in the lineup than miss a ton of times. But come on. You would think we're in last place. Their offense is looking like. Did they take 2 out of 3 from the A's?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. They hit a lot of home runs on Friday.
They hit 2?
Yep. That's a lot for this team. Did they hit 2 or they hit 3?
I know I put down Manny and Laureano hit him.
Didn't Castellanos hit 1 too?
He might have done, yeah.
I think he might have. Yeah. Castellanos also homered. 3. Hey, do not gyp this team.
Hey.
Offensive numbers that they desperately need.
One off. One off.
Now you're doing it on purpose. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Steve and Poway. Steve, what's going on?
Hey, Braden. Hey, listen, you're a coach. You see what goes on. I'm a firm believer that what you do off the field is a direct reflection on what you do on the field. And it isn't coincidental that the poor prima donnas with the long-term contracts aren't performing. The guys that don't have the long-term contracts are performing. I guarantee all 4 of those guys don't put the effort in the offseason now that they did to get that contract. I think it's human nature. I don't think that those guys are putting the effort in on the offseason. Kobe Bryant used to talk about it, that in a game he wouldn't pass to some of the players on the team because he watched their practice routine and didn't like the way they practiced, didn't trust them. It's pretty obvious that the prima donnas that got all the money are living this millionaire lifestyle off season and are not putting the effort in that they did prior to getting that contract. And we're seeing that reflection with the guys that don't have the contract really excelling for the team, and the guys with the prima donna contracts, none of them are playing up to their ability.
Steve, I appreciate the phone call. I will say this. There's something to be said about the guys that are hungry going out there and balling out. I think there's something to be said with that. But I don't think you can judge how a player does his offseason based on his contract or how they're playing this year. I don't think that's fair. I don't watch these guys. We don't watch these guys during their offseason. If they posted a bunch of videos of them working out all the time, would that suffice for you? I think there's a little bit more. I think there's a little bit to the saying of guys that are hungry going out there and playing extra hard to try to get that contract that they need and keep it around. But I don't think these guys are struggling for a lack of effort. And trust me, you would definitely know if it was a lack of effort. They had a batting practice session that we were all at. The media where they couldn't film it. That was talked about in the daily newsletter of just Manny and just Fernando putting in extra work with the hitting coach. I saw it in Boston when I was doing the Fenway Park tour. They were there early in the morning for a late afternoon game, getting extra work in. So I don't think it's for a lack of effort, Frank. I really don't.
As someone who has been in the clubhouse for this team a hell of a lot more recently than you have, I can tell you that I see what they do. It is not for a lack of caring. It is not for a lack of trying. It's not because they have prima donna contracts. They're struggling right now. There's no denying it. There's no doubt about it. But to say it's for a lack of effort is just, in my opinion, is just lazy. To say it's a lack of effort, to say it's a lack of care, it's a lack of trying, is just lazy. There's laziness on your part if you think that.
I agree. I just I don't think it's a lack of effort thing. And I'm going to tell you right now, again, you will notice a massive difference in the lack of effort department, because the lack of effort department is this is the other thing that this is the other thing you'd be hearing at post-game press conferences. They would be like, "Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm just in a slump. I'm just in a slump. I'm gonna do my thing. I'm Manny Machado. I'm gonna do my thing." Like, he didn't do that yesterday. He hasn't really done that. He said he flat out he took responsibility for yesterday's loss. Yesterday in the postgame, he did. I think that's big for a player like that. If he did it and he started blaming other things and saying he's playing great, this is that, I think you would have a little bit more of a problem if that was the case. But I don't think that's the case. So I don't see it as like a lack of effort thing. They're struggling right now. It's hard. And they have to play better. But it's going to be up to them to be able to do it. 11 o'clock hour, when we come back, we'll talk about some of the positives of Padres baseball. The pitching staff. Pitchers did really well this weekend. We'll explain further as we continue. Braden Surprenant Show, Setting Summer Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. $11 o'clock on the Braden Surprenant Show. Setting us over at Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. Interesting conversation we just had off the air. But there's a lot of different ways that we can pick about that. We're going to get to some injury updates a little bit later on. Dennis Lynn was on with the morning show earlier today. Talked about some of the injury updates. Joe Musgrove, Nick Pivetta. We had updates on Jay Cronenworth over the weekend as well. But for all the negativity about this weekend for the Padres, they still went 2-2. And overall, and I know it's not sustainable, I get that, and the Dodgers are starting to win now. They've won 8 of the last 10, where the Padres have won 6 of the last 10. And the Diamondbacks are starting to creep up. Diamondbacks only 2 games back after the 3 wins in a row for the Diamondbacks. The San Diego Padres, as we mentioned during this stretch, need to go about 500 during May and June based on the schedule of who they're playing. Right now they're 12-11. So in order to finish the month of May 500 in their next 5 games, they have to go 2-3 in their next 5 games against Philly and Washington. And that's it. Then they'd be 500 in May, and you weather what is a tough part of your schedule in the Storm. I mean, this is like the conversation of it's not who you play, it's when you play them. Phillies at the beginning of the year, awful. Phillies right now, a lot better than they were at the beginning of the year, and they're still trying to overcome what is their negative 21 run differentials. They sit at 500, and you get them right now when they're playing a little bit better baseball than they were before as you try to work your way out of an massive offensive slump. So we talked a lot about the negative. Let's talk about some of the positive as we kind of recap the weekend for Padres baseball, starting with last Friday. The Padres won 7-3 over the A's. Offense was still winning despite ugly underlying numbers. The Padres improved to 30-plus wins despite owning MLB's worst offenses statistically. That carried throughout the weekend. They became on Friday just the second team ever to start 30-20 or better while hitting as low as 221. The 1908 White Sox did it. Padres also own one of the worst on-base percentages ever for a team with this strong of a record, and the offense remains heavily dependent on timely homers, bullpen dominance, and close game execution. They scored 7 runs on Friday on just 7 hits. They had 3 solo home runs out of 3 home runs out of Manny, Castellanos, and Ramon Laureano, and they got the quality over the quantity. You saw a little bit on Friday, which, again, as the weekend progressed, I mean, you saw a little bit of Steven Souza Jr.'s hitting philosophy. He continues to preach line drives and patience rather than chasing power. Padres have MLB's lowest BABIP, 263, suggesting some bad luck. 7 of 10 regulars with 100-plus plate appearances have BABIPs below 265. The organization believes frustration and impatience have caused hitters to abandon the plan. Internal belief remains, if hitters stay disciplined, power and production will eventually normalize. This might be a conversation of, and again, this is why we have to bring this up, because everybody likes to talk about just fire the hitting coach. Frank, if they're not listening to the hitting coach, or they're not doing the approach or the philosophy of the organization, what does it really matter what the hitting coach is in the first place? If they're not going to, right, if they're not even going to do what he's asking for, the internal belief inside the organization is if the hitters stay disciplined, power and production will normalize. But their biggest problem right now is getting away from what they're supposed to be doing because they're worried about the fact that they have all gotten off to rough starts. That's a mental internal problem for each individual player, Frank. That's why I said in the first hour, when it comes to this offense, it starts with the players, it finishes with the players, and unless, especially the four at the top, start locking into what the offensive philosophy is or thinking about the team as a whole, it's going to be rough watching this offense, and they will never get better.
No, exactly right. And you can only lead whatever that saying is. You can only lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Something along those lines.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah, I mean that's all there is to it. Steven Souza Jr. could be saying everything right, and if everything is said right and it's put into practice, which we have seen them at times actually do what the team has been preaching. Look at Seattle. But if they don't do it, then it doesn't matter what he says. Why have him at that point? Which then people will turn into, oh, well, if they're not listening to him, they don't respect him, so fire him. It's a process. These players, they're their own people. They're going to make up their own decisions. Some of these guys have had success in the past. Maybe some of these guys are saying, well, Steven Souza Jr. was a hitter. Not a great one, so why should I listen to him? Maybe someone is thinking that down there. But you don't know unless they try. And when you see when they're actually doing what the approach calls for, they're having success.
I don't think it's a disrespect to Steven Souza Jr.
I don't think so either.
I think it is overthinking if I got to get out of this. Because I've been there. I mean, I think a lot of people are there with whatever it comes with life in general. You stick to a plan, you're not immediately getting the results, and mentally you don't have the discipline to stick with the plan. You make a quick wholesale change and a quick wholesale adjustment instead of letting that plan play out, because you start to panic and you start to worry and you start to be like, this isn't working. But you have to give it time to work. And with every single game that the Padres offense does not let the system work, it sets them back, and it's going to take even longer. So
how do you evaluate a hitting coach if not by the player's performance? If the players are not listening to what the hitting coach is preaching, and when they do, they are having success, how is that on the hitting coach?
Correct. It's the same thing with, there's a lot of when you coach and you put in the practice every day and you put in the work, and my experience is obviously with football. I mean, you can work on something every single day. I mean, here's a situation. Here's somewhat of an example. And again, before people go like, it's high school football, it's different. I mean, let's talk about this. I had a kid on my team a handful of years ago. His name was Devondre. And Devondre had a brother who played in the National Football League at the time. And we were playing Corona Centennial, who's a really good team. And Corona Centennial ran a pitch pass for a touchdown every game leading up to our game. And so what did we do? We practiced the pitch pass every single day of the week. And I said, Devondre, if the ball comes your way on this, don't come up until the ball crosses the line of scrimmage. Yes, that is correct. Because why? Because they're going to throw the pitch pass eventually. We worked on it all week long. We get to the game on Friday. They flipped they ran the toss. They run the pitch pass, and the guy is so wide open, it's disgusting. And the kid comes off the field, and I go, we worked on it all week. Where is he? He's like, oh, yeah, my bad, coach. I'll get it next time. There's not a next time. That's the one time that you have that opportunity to make that play. I can spend the entire week putting it in. You can run everything perfect the entire week. And then it comes to the game. It's up to the players to execute the game plan. Is that showing that I am a bad coach? Because that's somebody in the stands, like, mom and dad, right? The parents always like to, give their 2 cents on what needs to be done. They're not the ones that ever sign up to coach their kids, but they're the ones that always have the opinion. It's like, oh, I don't know. I told your son all week, and we worked on it all week. He failed to execute that. But from anybody watching that doesn't go to practice, you sit there and go, oh, this coach is terrible. They're unprepared. I mean, at some point, the players have to take responsibility. And when you get to a situation, back to baseball, let's go back to baseball, where you have the approach at the plate. Now, baseball is a very individual sport. It's a very individual sport where you are there individually, and your individual performances add collectively with 8 others is your team element to the game. So individually, these guys have their own ways of doing things. They have their own swing. They have their, everybody's got their slightly different approach inside the game. And when you start to run somebody else's stuff, right? You're running the philosophy of Steven Souza Jr., and you're not getting the results. It is very difficult to try to continue to do those things when in the back of your mind, you're thinking about the times when you were having success and what you were doing then. And what you end up getting is a mix of a little bit of what the hitting coach is saying and a little bit of what your history is. And guess what that is? That is a disaster. That is a disaster because you're not sticking with any philosophy, or you're doing something that's not productive to the rest of the team. You're not pulling the rope in the right direction. So we can talk about it all we want. We can implement our game plan. We can implement whatever play we want to run, or whatever offensive philosophy we want to do. But Frank, if they don't execute the plan,
it's not on the coach.
There's nothing they can do about it. And honestly, that's not even like he's not getting the message across. That is the individual battle that this organization has to have with every one of their players that starts to press. That's why we talk about, it looks like he's pressing. You can't fix that.
No.
You can't fix the guy pressing. He has to fix it himself. And I think a lot of these guys are starting to do that because they look at the scoreboard and there's a lot of averages that are under 200. So on Friday, as we go back to recapping the weekend of Friday's game, Kevin Acey's newsletter on Saturday morning talked about the fact that the organization believes if they stick to this plan that we're looking at, they're going to get their way out of a jam. They're going to get their way out of this slump, but they are not doing it consistently, hence why we're not doing well offensively. I buy that. Do you believe that? I believe that. I think that's a legit conversation. After Friday's game, Nick Castellanos starting to find his groove a little bit. I mean, yesterday, obviously a little bit different, but since April 29th up until Friday, he's hitting .250 with an .802 OPS and 4 home runs. Nice little pickup for the Padres. Rodolfo Duran starting to do things a little bit. He's doing great defensively. And I think throughout the entire weekend, I think the Padres pitching did everything you needed to win you games. Walker Buehler, 3 runs, 4 walks. He had poor command. But you know what? Pitched long enough and good enough for you to win the game, and you won the game on Friday.
Even Griffin Canning pitched better yesterday than his line.
Great.
Yeah, than his line would suggest. It was, the one mistake to Kyle Schwarber in the first inning and then Brandon Marsh later in the game. But there were so many opportunities the Padres had to potentially help him out, and they just didn't. He pitched a lot better than his line would suggest.
I look at, this guy's outside, YouTube chat comment. We're even more terrible for starting pitching, so Sousa's game planning sucks. Bro. If they're not listening to the game plan, it's not the game plan. It's the players.
Is that not what this whole segment has been on?
That's what the entire segment's been about. I can sit there and tell somebody to do something every single day, and they do it every single day until the game, and then they don't do it in the game. That is not the coach and their game plan. If they flat out don't do it. That's like building a habit as a parent. Hey, take out the trash. Take out the trash. Take out the trash. Take out the trash. Kid takes out the trash 4 of the 5 days. The 5th day he doesn't take out the trash because the parent didn't tell him to take out the trash. Is it a bad game plan on taking out the trash? No, the kid just didn't take out the trash.
Who was the Padre hitting coach last year?
Victor Rodriguez.
What team is he the hitting coach for now?
Houston Astros.
The same Houston Astros that are currently 8th in hitting?
Correct. They have
Okay,
a top
cool.
10 offense in almost every offensive statistical category. And guess what everybody wanted?
Yeah, whose fault
Him
was
gone.
last year?
Last year was Victor Rodriguez's fault, of course.
Uh-huh.
Too much contact, not enough power. They're hitting the ball too much.
8th place, last place. 8th place. You know what? It might be the players
Correct.
that are kind of the problem at this point.
And to argue back again, if they don't listen to the coach, couldn't that be because the coach isn't the right coach? You want to keep going through coaches? I mean, I think you've seen that it's a lot of these. There's a lot of coaches that are throwing out there.
And historically, if the hitting coach or the pitching coach is fired, that is the first step towards the manager getting fired. And as we have said multiple times on this show, there has been nothing that has happened this season that would garner Craig Stammen getting fired at all.
I think he's done a hell of a job.
So to fire one of his coaches would be the wrong move, period.
Again, baseball's different because it's mostly mental and it's hard to stick with a plan when you're struggling and you do it every single day. And that's not like I don't respect the coach or I'm not listening to the coach. That's a human element part. And again, this is why I continue to say it's going to be the players that need to do it.
And I need money. There are some things about it that are absolutely valid. Jackson Merrill's hitting $198. Manny's hitting 170. So it's not about just losing back-to-back games in May. There are genuine issues on this team. Laureano went from hitting 360 at the start of the season. He's hitting 208 now. Like, there are genuine offensive issues that this team has. It's not the fact that it's still May. No. We've said this already. It's not too early anymore. You're just about a third of the way through this season.
Yeah, you're 51 games in.
Yeah, there's no such thing as early trends now. If you are bad, if you're struggling, you are not good right now. Period. Manny, it's not an early slump anymore. He is having a problem. Jackson Merrill, it is not an early slump anymore. He has a problem.
There's something in the daily newsletter from Saturday morning after the game on Friday, and we already ran out of time just talking about the game on Friday, but it kind of led to a point throughout the entire conversation that we've just had. But every one of these players have had just bizarre seasons. Because let's talk about Machado for a second. When I know we got to take a break. You know what? I'll say it on the other side. Machado is just what is the bizarre thing about Machado's start to the season? I'll tell you when we come back. 11:24 on a Tuesday. Got a crash out Tuesday? Crash out Tuesday, Frank.
Yeah, there's about to be one.
As people in the YouTube chat want to see a Craig Stammen crash out to fire up the boys, so they can all be on the fence tapping with their bats on the side of the glass.
Let me ask you a question. If Adam called all of us for a meeting,
okay,
and was just screaming and yelling at us at the top of his lungs, what would you do?
Well, I grew up playing football and stuff, so it depends how many times he has done that. If it was the first time, I'd be like,
yeah, okay.
Because
yeah,
Adam does not scream nor yell. I'd be like, all right, well, that means business.
We done messed up. But if you're doing
he did it every day, I'd be like, all right, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
That's part of the deal with.
Yeah, yes, sir.
That's like when I coach. I mean, you have to time up your fieriness, if you will. Otherwise, it just falls on deaf ears. And I think teenagers are the best at that. I mean, teenagers will only take so much yelling before they just go like, bleep you, dude. Seriously, like you have to pick your spots. The same thing is with like these are adults, okay? Like you can't just sit there and like pull an Augie Garrido every single time they don't play well. I mean, it falls on deaf ears eventually. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get to, this is the stat I was talking about. It was in Kevin Acey's daily newsletter. And it's interesting because of the fact that, in terms of Manny Machado this season, his numbers are, everybody on this team has some type of bizarre stat. So this was after Friday's game. He was hitting a 179. He's like down to 170 now.
Yeah, he's 170 even now.
He's been producing extra base damage when he does actually connect with the baseball. His two recent hits, this was like on Friday, a homer and a double. Hard hit homer on Friday was his hardest contact all season at 109 miles an hour. Padres are still waiting for sustained superstar production out of Manny Machado. He has the second most home runs on the team right now with 8. He has 8 home runs over 51 games. And he's like arguably one of the worst hitters right now in baseball. I mean, over a course of 162 games this year, he's on pace for 25 bombs. He's got 25 RBIs, which is leading the team for the Padres. He has 8 home runs, which is second most behind Gavin Sheets. I mean, he has been putting up some pretty big, not big numbers, but he's been pretty productive in terms of the run scoring and the home runs, despite hitting a $170. But it's just bizarre how he's been unable to hit consistently. It's bizarre how Jackson Merrill hasn't been able to hit 200. It's bizarre that Fernando Tatis Jr. hasn't hit a home run. It's just bizarre, Frank. There's just a lot of bizarre stats with this team.
Oh, exactly. And going back to what you were saying with Manny and all the home runs he's hit, Kyle Schwarber hit 57. He was only batting 191. So he was like the definition of all or nothing. Now, Manny has not had that type of home run production just yet, but he has certainly hit some big home runs and meaningful home runs, even over the course of the last week, where you get down 2-0 early and Manny's right there to pick you back up and bring you back in. So he has had his moments this year. They certainly have not been sustainable. And at this point, you're going to look, let's just say he does go on a tear to end this season. His batting average at the end of the day is still only going to be about 250 because it's so low now. You've got to do so much work to be able to bring it back to somewhat of a respectable level. He's going to have to hit like 400 just to get it back to 250.
Going into Saturday's game, the Padres only had a couple of hits. They actually got out hit by the Athletics. On Saturday, they ended up winning the game 2-0. Bullpen's legit. Starting pitching, again, Lucas Giolito's been great for the Padres. The bullpen's been outstanding. Jackson Merrill said after that game that he had admitted the frustration had started to set in and started to weigh him down. And he talked openly about needing to have fun again. On Saturday, he had a walk, a stolen base, he doubled, he scored a run. Organization believes mental reset may matter as much as mechanics. I think that might be the case for all of these guys right now. Merrill, since then, again, still hasn't really put up really good numbers, but he admits that the frustration is starting to weigh him down. When you get frustrated like that and it's starting to play a toll on you mentally, you know what you don't do at the plate? Stick to the approach. That you're not thinking clearly, you're trying to end the misery, and you start to press. And that's a problem. Padres offense still historically strange. MLB's lowest batting average, still own one of the league's best records. The game on Saturday is perfect representation of 2026 Padres baseball. Almost no hits, incredible bullpen, enough opportunistic offense. Really interesting stuff. From it's mind-boggling, this team. Mind-boggling. 5-2 loss on Sunday. Padres collected 9 hits, but they went 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. They couldn't land the finishing blow all afternoon. It was the same thing in the Dodgers series, same thing to start the Phillies series, same thing in the A's series, not hitting with runners in scoring position. I will always flip it over to what Tony Gwynn Jr. said. The problem is not getting hits with runners in scoring position. The problem is getting runners in scoring position. It's not hitting with runners in scoring position. It's getting with runners in scoring position. And the Padres right now are still getting runners in scoring position. Eventually the hits will come, but they are creating traffic on the bases. They just didn't get some situational hitting, which is interesting for this team, Frank, because they didn't get that situational hitting on Sunday and they didn't get it yesterday. But this is a team that is situationally had a lot of success, especially late heroics and a lot of wins that they have had.
Yeah, that's something we talked about a lot last year, is the fact that this team could not hit with runners in scoring position. It was one of the big major talking points that we harped on all last year, was the fact that they could not hit with runners in scoring position. So they've done it. They've had the ability to. It's just you're not going to be able to do it every single time. You're not going to be able to do it every single day. Sometimes you just run into great pitching. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's baseball at that point.
Overall, the 4 games over the weekend, the pitching, I thought Walker Buehler pitched gritty enough for you to win, and that's what you need at number 5 starter. Lucas Giolito, great again. He's been great in a Padres uniform.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Griffin Canning was awesome yesterday. He gives it the home run to Schwarber and then completely shuts down the Phillies. And then I thought he got a little tired there in the last inning. And maybe Craig Stammen should have pulled him a little bit earlier. I think it's something to be said about your manager giving you an opportunity to finish out the game. And at that point, if he makes a better pitch to Brandon Marsh, they go into the bottom of the 7th inning with a 1-run deficit, and he goes 7 innings, allowing 2 hits and 1 earned run. Instead, he goes, 6 2/3? Did he make it through the whole? They pulled him, didn't they, at that point?
They pulled him after 6 2/3.
So he goes 6 2/3 with 3 earned runs, which sucks. And Griffin Canning's, I think Griffin Canning has pitched better than his ERA this year. I really do. I think he's been great. I mean, the way that he mowed down the Phillies yesterday, he gave up 2 bad pitches. He was 2 bad pitches away from potentially throwing 1 hit yesterday. I mean, up until that 7th inning, he was 1 pitch away from a perfect game. Was he not? I mean, he didn't walk anybody, and he only gave up 1 hit. And it was on a bad pitch to Schwarber, wall scraper over the fence. I thought Griffin Canning was great. I preface all this by saying that Michael King was the worst this weekend when it came to starting pitching.
Yeah,
it was his worst outing of the season. 4 runs, out before the 4th inning ended. A's ambushed him early. He had walks, he had wild pitch, he had constant traffic, and Michael King himself said, I never felt like I had it. I mean, you're going to get some of those. But the biggest story of this team right now is not the starting pitching, it's the offense. And honestly, going into the season, it's surprising to me that the starting rotation right now is starting to be an asset for this team. It is surprising. We'll talk more about that when we come back. The bullpen's been outstanding. The pitching staff's been good. We have injury updates for you that we need to get to. Lots to talk about as we have just gotten underway here in the first couple hours of the Braden Surprenant Show. Standing Room Sports Station 97 through the Fan. 11:40 from the Bill House Studios. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant with the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's Urban Sports Station, 97.3 The Fan. We're talking a lot about the offensive problems for the Padres. We're going to have an injury update for you in just a little bit in the 12 o'clock hour, the noon lunchtime hour. But before we get to that, we do want to talk a little bit about the pitching staff. I thought Griffin Canning yesterday pitched incredibly well. I think, the starting pitching, Frank, for this team, which was a glaring concern, I think, has now turned into what I think has been almost a strength for this team. I think it's really starting to settle in. And for what the Padres are paying for their current rotation, they're getting a lot out of these guys. And it's probably one of the better rotations right now, at least in terms of getting guys that give you an opportunity to win.
Yeah, Michael King is finally starting to turn it around after the start and stop year last year with his injury. Walker Buehler's starting to look like a major league pitcher again after some rough outings to begin the season. And now you're getting guys like Lucas Giolito, who has come in like a ball of fire after getting signed late. Griffin Canning has been pitching better than his numbers would suggest. And whoever's been in that rotating spot, whether it be German Marquez, Matt Waldron, kind of, and even Nick Pivetta gave you solid outings that gave you a chance to compete at the very least this season. So yeah, the starting pitching has been a lot better than I think a lot of people would have thought it would have been.
Yeah, I think all of the guys in the rotation right now are helping you tremendously. And we have an injury update for you that we're going to get to you in the noon lunchtime hour on from Dennis Lynn, who was on with the morning show talking about Nick Pivetta and Joe Musgrove, and we'll get to that in the noon hour. We do need to get to our sports thread, but we want to get to Clay in the South Bay. You're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Clay?
Boy, I thought I was being punished, guys.
Sorry, Clay.
Hey, I sit back here and I listen to all the chining and whining or whatever you want to call it and all the disgust. But, there is light at the end of the tunnel and it ain't the train. I'm going to tell you that right now. In 2023, we were 24 and 27 on May 26th. We finished 82-80. 2024, we were 28-28. We finished 93-69. 2025, we were 30 and 22. Let me say that again, 30 and 22. And we finished 90 and 72. This year, right now, on May 26th, we are 31 and 22. All I'm going to say is kick back, relax. It's going to come. And good God, we don't need to blow up anything. And we don't need to fire anybody. That's all I got.
I think that's true, Clay. 100%. I look back to that 2024 season where I think a lot of people thought the Padres could potentially win a World Series. In fact, and I know nobody wants to hear, the Dodgers talked about how they gave them the best run out of any team that they played against in the playoffs. And that Padres team in 2024, 51 games in, was hitting like 250 as a team. The 714 OPS. Their offense wasn't something to write home about. It wasn't electric. It's a lot better than it is right now. I will say that. It's not worse. Padres offense right now is awful. But that being said, a lot of the damage in that season came post-trade deadline, Frank. And they went on and put together a really good year in 2024. And, Clay went through all the records for the last couple of seasons for the Padres of where they're at through their first 51 games and where they finished. And the Padres finished pretty well. As much as there's some glaring problems for the Padres that need to be addressed, I think you have to acknowledge them, as you and I have been saying. They also have a lot of time to make up for that. And I think both things can be true.
Yeah, and this third of the schedule here is by far the toughest. They're playing a lot of competitors, both in their own division and others around the league. So this is by far and away the meat and difficulty of their schedule. And as we went over a couple of weeks ago, they are going to beat up on a lot of teams in the second half of the season because that is their weak point of the schedule. The teams they have later are projected to be sellers or at least not very good come the end of the season. So I mean, this is the time where they need to hunker down. They've so far, again, a game over 500. They haven't let that 8-game cushion from April slip. So I mean, they're doing everything they need to do right now.
I think so too. I think it's a and again, we talked about it for the first 2 hours of the show. The players got to go out there and play. And that's what it comes down to. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. A lot of other news going on in the sports world. What else is going on? Well, Frank's New York Knicks are in the finals, baby. Let's get to the sports thread.
You know that group chat? The one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
All right, Frank, what we got going on today?
We've got, again, a decent amount of football stuff going on. College, as you said, is the gift that keeps on giving. And
number 1,
it's just going to continue to give as the NCAA has officially opened up an investigation into Ole Miss's football program after Dabo Swinney publicly accused Rebels coach Pete Golding of tampering with linebacker Luke Farrelly. According to records obtained by ESPN, the NCAA requested forensic imaging of multiple Ole Miss staff members' phones as part of the investigation into allegations that Golding and others aggressively pursued Farrelly after he had already enrolled at Clemson. Swinney called the situation, quote, blatant tampering, and said that college football's transfer system has become, quote, a broken system without meaningful enforcement, while Ole Miss maintains that there are, quote, 2 sides to every story. The case could become one of the biggest tests yet of whether the NCAA can actually police tampering in the NIL and transfer portal era. Is tampering now basically impossible to stop in college football, or does the NCAA need to make an example out of a major program to restore credibility?
They do have to make an example at Ole Miss. They also have to put in rules for any of this stuff. I mean, to be able to have free agency every year is a joke. There's not a single sports league that does free agency after every single year where it's a successful league. I don't think anybody does it in general. I mean, this is a professional league now. As we've talked about, they're all getting paid. They need to have professional rules to keep the integrity of the game. And they don't have any of those rules because none of them are enforceable, because there's no collective bargaining agreement, because they don't have, they're not non-exempt. So until they can write laws about this, it's going to be just mass chaos in college athletics. And this obviously is something that's important here. I mean, Luke Farrelly's a San Diego kid. He went to Carlsbad High School in the middle of this situation. So, you know, I don't blame the kid. I mean, he's got to go wherever the best place is for him to make money, potentially. And he decided to go to Ole Miss. But free agency every year is a joke.
You want to talk about the SEC not being able to compete as well anymore with just being blatantly able to openly pay players now. Dabo Swinney has become such a whiner in this entire ordeal now. He's got a problem with everyone doing things that he did, I'm sure, with his program before this became widely accepted.
Number 2.
This is a story that we had talked about last year, either last year or earlier this year, that has now gotten some sort of resolution. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, signed the Teddy Bridgewater Act into law Friday, allowing Florida high school football coaches to use their own money to help players with expenses like meals, transportation, and rehabilitation services. The law is named after the former NFL quarterback Teddy Bridgewater, who was suspended from coaching at his alma mater, Miami Northwestern High School, after revealing he personally paid for support services for underprivileged players during the school's state championship run. The new law places limits and reporting requirements on spending, but supporters say it recognizes the reality that many coaches do far more than just teach football and often serve as mentors and lifelines for struggling students. Should high school coaches be encouraged to financially support players when needed, or does that create too many ethical and recruiting concerns in modern sports?
If a coach was to spend his own money to help his own players, I think he should be allowed to do that.
Yeah, if he's trying to get him a meal, I mean, like,
right. I think
that's
it's fine. I mean, if he's gonna like individually pay for them to like go to that school, I think that's a little crazy. I don't know why you would ever want to do that to win high school games. But you know, to each their own. That's probably not something that should be allowed. But Teddy Bridgewater was trying to take care of kids that went to his high school in a bad area of Florida, and he was paying it back, and the district got upset because they weren't getting theirs. And the problem with a lot of these schools, and I deal with it in high school, we at Cathedral, we deal with the diocese. We don't have to deal with the unified school districts. And if you want to know anything about the unified school districts, about where the money goes, everything like that, go look at the State of the Union Tribune today, where they posted what all the superintendents and leaders of these school districts in town are making annually. Go ahead and read that, and you'll get an idea of why Teddy Bridgewater got let go over there for helping out his own school. You want to know where the money's going? UT basically posted it today. Go look at it. It's interesting. Interesting stuff. That's all I'll say about that.
It's fun.
Number 3.
Wander Franco was ruled criminally responsible Monday for the sexual and psychological abuse of a minor in the Dominican Republic, but a judge granted him a judicial pardon that will keep the former Tampa Bay Rays star from serving prison time. The judge said Franco was also a victim of extortion by the minor's mother, who was sentenced to 10 years in prison for trafficking her daughter. Franco's baseball future remains highly uncertain as Major League Baseball continues its own investigation under its domestic violence and sexual assault policy, while the Rays say that they will continue cooperating with the league. Franco's career was once viewed as one of baseball's brightest young success stories after signing a massive long-term contract in 2021, but the case has completely changed the trajectory of his future on and off the field. Even without prison time, should Wander Franco be allowed to play in Major League Baseball again?
That's a decision for Major League Baseball, because that's a crazy story.
Yes.
That is a crazy story. So he doesn't serve prison time now.
No, he does not.
What else was his punishment? That was like what he probably got something else. I imagine.
That's all it says. Just
he
he's
won't
avoiding
serve
prison
time.
Yeah, avoiding prison time.
That's up to Major League Baseball to decide. I mean, it doesn't sound like he should, but that's just a crazy story.
Yeah.
We'll see what Major League Baseball finds.
For sure.
Number 4.
The Chicago Bears made it clear this past Thursday that they are planning to leave Chicago after more than 100 years in the city, saying they've exhausted every opportunity to remain at Soldier Field. The franchise is now focused on 2 potential stadium sites, Arlington Heights in the suburban Illinois or Hammond, Indiana, where lawmakers are aggressively trying to lure the Bears across state lines with plans for a domed stadium. Team president Kevin Warren said the organization hopes to decide a location sometime in the spring or summer, which would mark one of the biggest stadium and relocation developments in recent NFL history. Should the Bears stay tied to Chicago and Soldier Field tradition, or is moving to a modern suburban or Indiana stadium the right move for the franchise's future?
I mean, if they move to Arlington Heights, they're still in they're still kind of in Chicago anyway.
Yeah.
It's not even that far. And then what was the other place?
Hammond, Indiana.
As long as they continue,
which is like right on the border.
As long as they continue to call themselves the Chicago Bears, does it really matter? I mean, because they're not in downtown Chicago. I mean, I think this is a different situation than like the Chargers situation. I got news for most people. Organizations want stadiums built for them, and if they have to pay for it themselves, it usually doesn't end well. And so we'll see what the Bears decide to do, but it doesn't sound like they're on the same page with the city of Chicago. But they're still going to be called the Chicago Bears. New lunchtime hour when we come back. Updates on injuries for the Padres.
San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the gas lamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime year.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
New lunch time hour, The Fan. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Good to be with all of you today. We broadcast live from the Bill House Studios. We know how on a May Gray Tuesday for most of the county today. Didn't see too much May Gray to the end of the month, so I guess it'll be a June gloom month coming up. Maybe. Hope not. Don't need it to be scorching hot either.
Yeah, what's the gimmick for July? July, good God, why?
Sure. Did you just come up with that yourself?
I did, yes.
Oh, nice. Well done. Not bad. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you want to join the show today, we're going to get to your phone calls in just a second. We do have some updates on the injury report for the San Diego Padres that we want to pass along as well. But first, let's get out to Dan and El Cajon. Dan, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Wow. I'm like scratching my head and saying, why isn't Sheets batting fourth? I look at the stats. I look how he's producing and who's not producing at the number 4 batting spot, and I'm going, we've got to score. We've got to put runs on the board. That means our first 4 batters need to get some runs across the plate, and we're not doing it. And I'm thinking maybe it's time to move Manny down to 5 or 6, probably 5. But we definitely need Sheets in the top 4.
Well, he's been hitting pretty well, and I appreciate the phone call, Dan. We've talked about this a lot, Frank, but sometimes guys thrive in the spots that they're in. And sometimes when they get bumped up to a more, quote, important role, they get attacked differently from other teams, and then they don't have those numbers. I think Ramon Laureano has been the perfect example of that so far this year because he was batting around 7th at the beginning of the season, was doing really well. They moved up to leadoff spot, and he hasn't recovered. So I'm not opposed to having Gavin Sheets bat at the top 4th. I'm not opposed to him batting cleanup because right now he is doing well. But, I mean, you might as well, Frank, just inverse the lineup if you want and have all the role guys bat 1 through 4 and then have all the stars bat near the bottom of the order. They still have to produce if you want this team to win. And by the way, like, hasn't Gavin Sheets hit near the top of the order for most of the games?
Yeah, he's been around the number 3 spot lately.
Right.
With Andujar going up to 2.
I feel like that's kind of been the case so far this season. I mean, yeah, they've started throwing Andujar near the top. I mean, I think Fernando's done a lot better batting in the leadoff spot. I think that's your answer at this point. You've tried the other experiments, but to me, it's probably time to keep Fernando in the leadoff spot. But you look at Sheets throughout the season, he's had 7 games started now batting 3rd. He's had 8 games now started batting 4th. Most of those have been recent games. He's hitting .304 in the number 3 spot. That's good. Got to play the hot hand. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. All right. Earlier today on Ben and Woods, Dennis Lin, who covers the Padres for The Athletic, was on talking about some injury updates, specifically with the arms in Joe Musgrove and Nick Pivetta. We're going to talk about this in just a little bit, but here's what Dennis Lin had to say on the latest injury update.
With Joe, actually, I talked to Joe yesterday. He's starting some plyo work this week, which is, a small step, obviously, but a big step for him because he hasn't really done much since March, since he got shut down with the discomfort in that surgically repaired elbow. It's just, it sounds like, a bone injury for him, a stress reaction in one of those bones in his elbow. He's just had to give time and space to let heal. And now we'll see, because we went through this in spring training where it looked like he was back on the mound, and then all of a sudden he's not feeling very well, and turns out later he wasn't feeling well all spring going into that appearance, that exhibition appearance he made. So no guarantees there. I think it's going to be a process. He's talking about just looking at the calendar, he's looking at hopefully for him right after the All-Star break, and Nick Pavetta's I think a little further behind that. We'll see with him too. Elbow injury. You never want to bank on anything. So they're looking at, I think, July to August for both those guys. And I think Herman Marquez is throwing bullpens, getting closer to some live BP. I think they would prefer to keep him on the IL for as long as they can, as they kind of sort out what they have with Griffin Canning and Lucas Giolito. And I know the velocity for Giolito is down through the first couple starts, but right now those are preferable options for them, at least I think in their mind, to Marquez. And yeah, I mean, it's not a lot of certainty, I know, but this is what they're working with, and they got to hope that those two veteran guys in particular, Musgrove and Pivetta, can come back down the stretch and give them a boost, because right now the rotation isn't going outside of Canning yesterday and a couple of 7-inning starts from Randy Vasquez and Michael King. They're not going very deep into games, so that's another factor I think that weighs in with the bullpen, and wanting to maybe reinforce the bullpen down the stretch as well.
Some interesting comments made by Dennis Lin there. He said like July or August potentially for those two guys to come back. I think that's good news. I mean, it's great news that Joe Musgrove is going to be throwing again. Obviously, as he will resume throwing this week after approximately 11-week shutdown. The interesting thing is the bone spurs, if you will, or having the bone issues, which has nothing to do with the Tommy John or ligament reconstruction itself. I mean, the setback, if you want to call it that, was something else, a more bone-related issue for Joe Musgrove. And, we could take a deeper dive into this. It's just an unfortunate break after unfortunate break after unfortunate break for a guy like Joe, who at this point, I think if he comes back at all this season in terms of like getting starts, that's a massive win for this Padres team after missing him all of last season.
Absolutely. I mean, you want to get something of quality out of Joe Musgrove. It'd be interesting to see how long he misses, but I don't think any of us had, after he went down in spring training, I don't think any of us had any thought or idea that he would be pitching before the All-Star break. So I mean, I would think probably beginning or middle of August at this point, get a month and a half out of him. Hopefully he pitches well enough to be considered as maybe your 3 starter for the postseason, or number 4 if it gets that far, if you get into the divisional series. That's kind of where I'm at as far as Joe Musgrove is concerned this season.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to resume throwing this week after the 11-week shutdown. The first phase of his throwing program will involve tossing plyo balls as he slowly rebuilds his arm strength. Musgrove is targeting a return shortly after the All-Star break, still being built up as a starter, not a reliever. He acknowledged a bullpen or relief role could accelerate his timeline, but the Padres want him stretched out for the rotation. Dennis Lin wrote an article about this in The Athletic, if you want to go check it out, where he talks about how the setback that Joe Musgrove had, was not tied to Tommy John graft or ligament reconstruction itself, but the issue is more bone-related, specifically involving a stress reaction around one of the bones in the elbow. Doctors have used imaging and testing to determine the discomfort likely is not being caused by a newly formed bone spur, as he has been receiving injections and treatment designed to help calcify and heal the bone. Padres are taking a very much a long-term approach when it comes to this. And Musgrove said that the process may require occasional pauses or adjustments depending on how his arm responds. So we'll see what type of contribution Joe Musgrove will have for this team. But, I mean, the injury history continues to rack up for Joe Musgrove, and it's unfortunate for him right now because since signing his 5-year, $100 million contract, he's only thrown 197 regular season innings. And a lot of this is just, unfortunate luck. I mean, he had the toe issue. He's had shoulder problems, elbow inflammation, Tommy John surgery. In 2024, he attempted to pitch through elbow inflammation before the ligament ultimately failed. I mean, the rotation concerns continue for the Padres. I think the rotation's starting to really solidify now, but Nick Pivetta also remained sidelined with an elbow flexor strain. He hasn't resumed throwing yet because this has mostly been about Joe Musgrove's update on this segment, but they're both targeting second half returns. Now, here's the important part of this. The important part of this is that this could be used as an additional upgrade to the rotation post deadline, so you don't have to spend money on a pitcher at the deadline. And there's another thing that Joe Musgrove's trying to do in order to heal this up. He's exploring the biomechanics and new procedures that they have for these bone spurs. I mean, he has been working with the Padres biometrics lab, studying past delivery footage to identify inefficiencies. This is all laid out in Dennis Lynn's article. He also referenced recent nanoscope elbow procedures that have been undergone by Tarek Skubal and Blake Snell. We haven't seen those guys bounce back from that yet, so we'll see how they look after this particular procedure is done. And Musgrove called the minimally invasive procedure appealing if bone spurs eventually become problematic. This is not something he's going to do unless it becomes more of a problem. However, doctors have said that they don't currently believe he is a candidate for that surgery. So let's go back to the conversation of why this is important for the Padres. I think it all ties into what the trade deadline could be for the Padres, which I know a lot of people don't want to hear after losing 2 games in the month of May. This is the conversation that people that are optimistic about the Padres are like, well, it's May, on top of the fact from other people that might be thinking about the Padres in a negative light, going like, oh, they got to focus on their hitting first. But when you start to talk about the trade deadline, Frank, and you start to go through what limited resources you may or may not have to acquire certain talent for this team, in terms of what you need desperately right now, let's throw out anything that we've already talked about. But what does this Padres team need a big boost in right now going into tonight's game? What out of the 3 phases of this game, whether it be, I'll say 4, starting pitching, bullpen pitching, defense, or hitting, what's the one thing that if you could upgrade right now about the Padres going into the night's game against the Phillies, what would it be?
Going into tonight's game, period, not...
Period. Like, what is the most glaring concern for this
offense.
Padres team right now? It's offense. Right? And then after that, you'd probably say starting pitching. I mean, I think starting pitching has been pretty good, but if you're talking about where you could use some upgrades, if you had to rank those 4 things, I'd go batting, I'd go hitting, right? Offense. I'd then go starting pitching. I'd then go bullpen, and then I don't really care about... I'm never going to acquire somebody to be better at fielding. It's not something that really floats my boat. But that's the order of how I would do it. Would you make any changes to that in terms of like how to address certain needs? Because everybody's got problems across the board. That's how I would... That's the moment of... That's the shopping list, if you will. Well, if that's the case, and we start to look at the strategy going into the trade deadline of how do you make this team not a team that can just make the playoffs, because I think they've shown that they can make the playoffs despite their offense not being good. I mean, they, and regardless of what you want to say about is this way of winning sustainable and all that other conversations, this team has shown that at this point, a third of the season is in, the Padres are right in the thick of playoff contention. So this is a team that's good enough to make the playoffs. But if you want a team to actually win in the playoffs and potentially win a World Series, what needs to be addressed? Well, let's talk about the bats situation. I think Tony brought up a good point last Friday on Gwynn and Chris. When you have limited resources and you can only spend it on one thing, if you are going to acquire a bat, where is that bat going to play on this team? Realistically, where is that bat going to play? Are you going to realistically put any of your stars on the bench to help improve this team? No. Are you going to trade any of those batters? No. So, out of all of the players on this Padres team, and you look at the 2026 roster of the San Diego Padres, and you look at, where everybody's at, you're not trading for somebody that's going to replace Xander Bogaerts. You're not trading for somebody that's going to replace Manny Machado. You're not trading for somebody that's going to replace Jackson Merrill. You're not trading for somebody that's going to replace Fernando Tatis Jr. That's 4 off the list. You're not really going to trade anybody, and I know Tim and Miramar disagrees with this. I don't think you're going to trade for anybody to replace Ramon Laureano. I think that is your core group that is going to be in the lineup each and every day. So the areas that you can improve, DH, maybe a corner outfield bat if you want to move Fernando to second base, and first base. Where are all your positions that are actually hitting right now playing? I don't know. First base, DH, corner outfield spot. I think the only other case that you could make is maybe a corner outfield position, and you have Castellanos always play on the bench, if you will. But the reality is you already can't get, on a consistent basis, Sheets, Andujar, and France in the lineup on a daily basis. And they play what positions? Corner outfield, DH, and first base. So if you're going to be able to improve your offense, those are the areas you have to improve. You don't need improvements there. Those guys are holding up their end of the bargain. So does it make any sense to potentially trade for a bat at the trade deadline? They might go get a bench piece, maybe, I guess. But the problem with your offense, Frank, is it your bench and role players, or is it your starters?
Starters right now.
It's your starters. And what can you physically not do with your starters?
Bench them.
Bench them and trade them. The only thing you could potentially do is you could, with the way that you're spending money, and Juan actually beat me to it, but you could theoretically DFA Nick Castellanos and make Laureano a bench player, and then go get a corner outfielder if you really wanted to. But you only have a limited number of assets that you can use to make some of these trades. That leads into another conversation about the pitching that we're going to get to when we come back, because we got to take a break. Braden Surprenant Show, Static Sermon Sports Station 97 through the Fan. 12:23. All of our guests join us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show. Sagan Suburban Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. In the 1 o'clock hour, we'll be giving away a 4-pack of tickets to the San Diego County Fair, returning to the Del Mar Fairgrounds June 10th through July 5th. Details at sdfair.com. 1 o'clock hour for that. When we come back on the show, we will need a contestant for a midday sports standoff. If you could take me down in sports trivia, you would be qualified for a shot at our grand prize, a $500 gift card to Westgate, Las Vegas, the home of legendary Vegas fun. Now offering the breakaway from fees package, including a $75 daily dining credit, 2-day spa passes, daily cabaret tickets, complimentary valet parking, and no resort fees. Special rates starting at $89 a night. Book now at westgatelasvegas.com. All right, let's get back to this conversation about the lineup, because I think it impacts a lot of different things. And this is how I'm going to relate this back to Joe Musgrove and to maybe Nick Pivetta later on in the season. So we talked about the most glaring need for the Padres right now. If you're going into a game today and you can upgrade something, that is what, Frank? Offense. We've gone through the fact that most of the guys that need the upgrade are players that you can't physically upgrade because of the contracts, because you're not training them, you're not going to bench these guys. The only thing you could do is very slight, and that is maybe get a situation where you get somebody that's better than Ramon Laureano and you put him on the bench, which I think you can get a lot more out of Ramon Laureano. We've seen it in a Padres uniform. So I honestly don't think there's too much that you can upgrade with the offense. These players have to play. Your stars have to perform, which leads you to the next thing, and that's starting pitching. Well, what's the most expensive thing to acquire at the trade deadline? Starting pitching. And over the weekend, and we'll talk about this later in the 1 o'clock hour, over the weekend, you got your daily or your weekly component, your weekly hit, if you will, by Bob Nightingale on what's going on around Major League Baseball. That always happens on Sundays. And the Padres were linked to a couple of things on there. And to me, when it comes to starting pitching, it would be nice to get another starter for this rotation. You can never have too much pitching, but that costs the most. And I don't know if you have enough to be able to trade for a top line starting pitcher and be able to keep a guy like Ethan Salas. I just don't know if that's possible. I think the rotation itself right now has been solid. I think Michael King, aside from Sunday, which was his worst outing of the year, has been an ace-type player. I think Randy Vasquez has been a nice number 2. I think Lucas Giolito and Griffin Canning has been great in 3 and 4. I think Walker Buehler's done a great job as a number 5. I think the importance of getting Joe Musgrove built up and potentially back at the end of the year, and a guy like Nick Pivetta, that is your trade to acquire starting pitching. You saw the rumors with, Tarek Skubal, and there's going to be and this is in the piece by Bob Nightingale that we're going to talk about in the 1 o'clock hour. But he talks about how there's 4 teams that could acquire this Tarek Skubal, and one of them's the San Diego Padres. He is if I'm not mistaken, he's a Boris client, is he not? Wasn't that the whole ordeal about his Tarek Skubal? If he's not, then this changes this conversation a little bit, but I think he is.
Looking now.
But Tarek Skubal is still kind of a risk. Like at this point in time, like Tarek Skubal is undergoing this, a surgery or underwent a surgery to like free up some bone spurs, and he's going to fight back and everything that's surrounding this.
He is a Boris client. He actually pitched today. He threw on the Comerica Park mound 2 live hitters, so he's back and ramping up already.
In the hypothetical world about trading for a starting pitcher, the only one that I would be interested in is one that is got a couple of years of control. Okay, so you can solidify your rotation for the future because, again, you don't know what you're going to get with Yu Darvish if he's even going to play anymore. I know he's not taking any money from you right now, but he's under contract still. Joe Musgrove's under contract. Regardless of what happens at the end of the year, Nick Pivetta will be a free agent. Michael King has the ability to opt out. You sign 1-year deals on these, in theory, the Lucas Giolito and Griffin Canning and Walker. You don't really have, outside of Randy Vasquez, you don't really have guarantees for the starting rotation. So if you're going to spend capital on pitching in the starting rotation, you got to get somebody that's going to be on the team long term. Now, if you want an impact guy that could potentially win you a World Series, the only way I would give up capital for a starting pitcher is if it guaranteed that you could re-sign somebody like a Tarek Skubal, but we already know that as a Boris client, he's going to test free agency. I don't even think injuries to him this season is going to deter him from doing that. So unless that's the case, a trade and then sign, starting pitching is kind of out of the realm of possibilities for the Padres at the trade deadline unless you pick up another arm that you already have. That's why I think it's important to understand the severity of Joe Musgrove coming back at the end of the year. The last thing is, and this is why I think the Padres have been rumored to pick up bullpen arms, that's the easiest thing to acquire, and that's the thing right now that I think you can make the biggest asset of your team even more is by getting another arm in the bullpen. And so for everybody that was asking the question about why the Padres are looking for a bullpen piece at the deadline, as we're a third of the season in, 51 games into the year. This is where you start seeing those trade rumors. When you saw the names on the list that the Padres are looking for relief pitching, I think a lot of people initially were like, why are they doing that? If you go through it step by step of what you could potentially acquire, it makes a whole hell of a lot more sense now of why the Padres are trying to get a bullpen arm. Because starting pitching is expensive. You have potentially 2 more arms that could be added to this team at the end of the year that are already part of your organization. So maybe it's not going to cost you as much capital. In terms of getting a bat, The bats that need to be replaced are guys that you're not going to bench nor trade. And then you get to a sense of what you can afford and what you can improve and what you could do it, in a cheap manner that really sets you apart when you get to the postseason is bullpen help. Frank, this makes a lot more sense now as you play through it at this point in the season.
It does. And a lot of those points are absolutely valid, and it's going to frustrate a lot of people knowing that your biggest needs are what you can't trade for. And I know I've seen it in chat and I know it's in jest, but you're also not going to be able to trade these big contracts away. That's not something that you are going to do. That's not what the trade deadline is for. So it really is. It's the only way to make this team better and get them ready for the postseason is, one, the players you already have playing to their ability instead of insisting on doing otherwise, and bolstering up a bullpen that is already one of the nastiest that this league has ever seen.
I think you add to the strength of the bullpen. I think it's the easiest thing you could potentially do. Again, the deal for Chapman is pretty affordable for the Padres. He's got a vesting option that they can execute to if he gets to a certain level. And from that, it's going to be something that's going to help you, I think, in the postseason, especially when, your bullpen's already got some arms that are fatigued. You got guys like Yuki Matsui that's pitching very well. I mean, Wandy Peralta ERA rise is doing a fairly good job. I mean, even like what would be like a hole in the bullpen, those guys have been pretty lights out in terms of their overall numbers this year. Look, they're not going to be perfect, but this bullpen's pretty legit. And if they can add another arm to it, that makes it a very difficult bullpen to score off of, which leads to, Frank, in the postseason specifically, you just need a couple of runs, and that's it. And how many starters usually start in the postseason? Like 3, maybe 4 max. I think you have those arms that you need for postseason ball. So I think it's going to come down to this team hitting. That's the situation, unfortunately, you can't fix, and the players have to fix themselves. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, we'll get to our midday sports standoff. We need a contestant for that and continue our conversation about the Padres of the weekend. In the 1 o'clock hour, we got tickets to give away for the San Diego Fair. We'll get to that as well as we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show, Settings Urban Sports Station 97 to the Fan. 12:40 on a Tuesday. I have to keep asking what day it is of the week. After a long weekend. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. You want to join the conversation about the Padres. Obviously a frustrating last 2 days, but the Padres took 2 out of 3 from the A's over the weekend. They're 12-11 in the month of May. What did we say at the beginning of the month, Frank?
Go 500.
Got to go 500 during this stretch. That includes June. Again, the schedule's tough over the next 2 months. I mean, just looking at it again, it's not who you play, it's when you play them. I mean, when we looked at this original schedule back at the beginning of May, the Phillies were not doing very well, but they were starting to figure it out. We look back on May 1st of this season. The Phillies were 13-19, 9.5 games out of first place, and they had just won 4 games in a row. They are now back to 500 for the first time since the beginning part of the season, and they're playing a lot better baseball than they were when we first talked about this month of May. So in order for the Padres to go 500, they got to go 2-3 in their next 5. Now, it'd be better if they did not just go 500. That's why these games are obviously important over the next 2 days against Philadelphia and then this weekend at the Washington Nationals. But you look at June, again, it's Philly. You got Philly on the road. You're going to go Philly, Washington, Philly. You got the New York Mets. Now, the Mets, hopefully by that time, are still playing as lousy as they've done through the majority of the season. You got the Reds. You got Baltimore. It's a little bit of a break. Baltimore starting to play a little bit better. You got the Cardinals again. Now, the Texas Rangers haven't been very good. So at this point, maybe June's a little bit better than we thought at the beginning of the season. But then at the end of June, you got Atlanta and the Dodgers, at Chicago, at the Dodgers, Arizona, and then Toronto, who's been a little bit of a disappointment. But the last, what was last year like when the Padres, right before the Padres played Toronto? Toronto was disappointing, were they not? Toronto then swept the Padres, found a way to win their way to the World Series, and we're a pitch away from potentially winning the World Series. So it's not who you play, it's when you play them. And this month of May, Frank, you have played 1 game over 500. And that's sweeping the Mariners. That's taking 2 out of 3 from the Giants. That's splitting with the Cardinals. You lost 2 out of 3 to 2 of the better teams in the National League in Milwaukee and the Dodgers. And you were a couple of plays away from potentially taking 2 out of 3 for the Dodgers. You took 2 out of 3 from the first place A's. I had on MLB Now today. I had to talk about how great the A's are. Padres just took 2 out of 3 from the A's. Offense needs to be better at the same time. That's kind of been the theme of today's show. In the 1 o'clock hour, we will talk more about some of the rumors that happened over the weekend when it comes to this Padres team. We'll discuss further what's going on with the offense, kind of reset, talk about how good the pitching has been over the last weekend or so. But we want to get to today's midday sports standoff. We have a contestant waiting online. Well, let's get to it.
Welcome to Midday Sports Standoff on the Braden Surprenant Show.
I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.
The ultimate head-to-head battle where sports knowledge and quick thinking collide.
No, he's no good. Are you kidding me?
Contestants will go toe-to-toe with Braden in a sports trivia deal where every correct answer brings them closer to victory.
Down the sideline! Wow! Unbelievable!
But 3 strikes and it's game over.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Can you outsmart Braden? The Midday Sports Standoff starts now.
All right, Frank, who we got playing today?
We have Gerardo in Temecula. How you doing today, bud?
Not bad. How you guys doing?
Good, good. All right, so today we've talked a lot about the Padre offense.
Yeah, we
today. We haven't really talked much about the rest of Major League Baseball and their offenses, so let's do that here. Right now, who are the top 10 teams that currently lead Major League Baseball in batting average? Gerardo, you have the first guess.
We're just going batting average?
Yes, batting average.
It has to be the Dodgers.
The Dodgers are number 3 on the list. They're batting .258 as a team.
Well, I do know because we've mentioned it multiple times, that the Astros are in the top.
Yes, the Astros. Sorry. Misheard you. Yes, the Astros are number 8. Gerardo?
Let's go with Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay is tied for first with the best batting average in baseball.
Which I think would have to be the Atlanta Braves.
That's who they're tied with. They're both hitting 260. Gerardo?
Yankees.
Oh, that'll be strike one. The New York Yankees are not in the top 10. They're actually 19th in overall team batting average.
Well, they hit the ball with the fence, so
Yeah.
I think they're number 1 in home runs, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go with the team that I'm pretty sure when we were talking about it last week, the Athletics, the team Padres just played.
The Las Oaklamento A's, yes. So we've gotten number 1, 2, 3, 6, and 8. Gerardo?
Let's see. Let's go with the Marlins.
The Marlins are literally 1 batting average point out of the top 10. They are in 11th right now.
I thought they were 2.
They are hitting, they're 244. 10th is 245.
We have Braves,
Rays, Dodgers, A's, and Astros.
A's and Astros. Okay. Is Luis Ariz carrying the Giants? Nice.
P9 right now at a 246 team batting average. Gerardo, you got 2 strikes on you, bud.
All right, let's see.
Gonna need an answer.
Yeah, let's go with Cleveland.
Nope, I'm sorry, Gerardo. That is strike 3. Cleveland, currently with the 24th best offense in baseball right now. Braden, care to wipe the board?
Okay, so Braves was 1.
Braves 1. Rays tied for first. Dodgers are 3.
Who was we're
missing 4?
Were the A's 5th?
A's were 6. Astros 8. Giants 9.
All right. So there's 3 teams I'm missing here.
Missing 4, 5, 7, and 10.
Oh, 7, 4. Now I'm just thinking about guys that are just raking. Let's go with CJ Abrams is on a tear. He's got to be like carrying the Nationals.
Nats are number 10.
Okay.
They're all in the National League. There are only 2 teams in the American League that are in the top 12 in overall team batting average.
That doesn't surprise me with how bad the American League has been. All right, they're all in the National League.
Mm-hmm.
One's got to be the Brewers, right? They're in first place. They're close to it.
Number 7. Missing 4 and 5.
Still in the National League.
Mm-hmm.
What division?
West and Central.
West and Central. Well, it's not the Rockies. It's got to be the Diamondbacks.
The Rockies are number 12, actually, and the D-backs, yes, are number 5.
Everybody in the National League West can hit, except for the Pods.
Oops.
Diamondbacks are 5.
Yes, Diamondbacks are 5, so we're looking for 4 in the Central.
We've said the Brewers in the Central. Was it the Cardinals?
The Cards are currently number 16.
It's the Cubs?
The Baby Bears are number 18.
Wow. It's got to be the Bucks then, huh? The Buccos?
The Pirates are the 4th best team on offense in Major League Baseball currently. So the top 10 teams in baseball right now, as far as batting average is concerned, the Braves, the Rays, the Dodgers, Pirates, D-backs, A's, Brewers, Astros, Giants, Nationals.
That's interesting. Well, you look at that list, because I was looking at it earlier today but I was looking at the bottom for the Padres. Padres are like last in almost every offensive category if you sort through it.
Yeah, they are.
And
Padres are last in batting average. They are second to last in on-base percentage, second to last in slugging, second to last in on-base, OPS, sorry. Not in last in home runs. You're 13th in home runs. So
they're not bad in stolen bases.
Yeah, no, they can steal bases. They just can't get on bases. So yeah, that's 50 stolen bags this year.
Which is shocking to me because I feel like every time the Padres try to attempt a stolen base, they get thrown out. How many caught stealing do they have?
They have 13, which is middle of the pack. They're 14th in caught stealing. Could be the Rays with 24 leading the league.
All right, so you said, where are the Pirates at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so I was doing this while you were saying that. Out of all the National League teams, in terms of like the batting averages in the top 10 here, you have the first team in first place in the National League, team in second place, team in third place, and then it goes 6th, 9th, 10th, and 14th. Offenses and everything, I guess. I'm surprised the Cardinals don't have a higher average. I mean, their pitching staff is okay. They got McGreevy and stuff like that, but like a couple guys at the top. But their bullpen's not exceptional, and their pitching's not great. And like everything you talk about with the Cardinals, that one talks about the Cardinals is like they're young position players. That's why it's shocking to me that their batting average isn't higher.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they're 21 points off the lead, which is, granted, that's a lot. They're hitting 239. They're only 6 points off of being in the top 10. So that's just the way it is with team batting averages. They're so tight and they're so compressed. But yeah, I mean, it's not like they're 16th with a 10-point difference between them and 10th. There's only 6.
The American League's even crazier. The top team in the American League is on this list first.
Mm-hmm.
And then the A's are 5th best team. Excuse me. The A's are the 5th best team in the American League in terms of their wins and losses.
Okay, record.
And then the Astros are the 11th best team in the American League. Some correlation, not too much. All we do know, though, is even though the Padres are in 4th place in the National League, 4.5 games behind Atlanta, and 2 games behind the Dodgers, or 2.5 games behind the Dodgers, their offense needs to improve drastically.
Yeah.
Drastically. I mean, pitching gets you through the season, right? But you still got to be able to hit in the postseason, because we have seen Padres teams that have had a top 10 pitching staff in Major League Baseball make the playoffs and get smoked because their offense is bottom 25. So obviously something that needs to improve upon for the Padres. And we'll see how they do against the Phillies today. I mean, I thought that the Padres pitching yesterday, Griffin Canning shut down that Phillies offense. And the Phillies have some aging veterans just as much as the Padres do. So we'll see how the Padres do in the next couple of games against the Phillies. They take 2 out of 3. They win the next 2 games. I think you're going to feel a little bit more confident about the Padres going into the month of June. And that's before they play the Nationals for 3. And, Washington is playing a lot better baseball, but they're a 500 club.
It's kind of like what we saw with the Dodger series and Emmett Sheehan. He's going to be the guy that you're going to want to get to if you want to win a game in this series. You have Christopher Sanchez going tomorrow with a 1.62 ERA. Aaron Nola goes tonight. His ERA is north of 6. So if you want to win at least one of these games, tonight's going to have to.
Yeah, the Padres stole it against Mizorowski and the Brewers. We'll talk more about Padres and Phillies in the next hour. Final hour of the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Got some news and notes for you to pass along for what's going on around sports that we didn't have time to get to. I want to congratulate Bryson Motts for making his major league debut for the St. Louis Cardinals. Bryson Motts is a kid that played at USD. He was a walk-on at the University of San Diego. And if I remember correctly, which I think I do, it's been a couple of years since I did some of Bryson's games at the University of San Diego, but he is a San Diego kid out of Westview High School, a walk-on for USD. He had a great career at the University of San Diego. He went on the he actually played with Chase Mydroth of the Chicago White Sox. He was on that team as well. They made it to a regional, and Bryson Mott started the game in the Corvallis Regional, in which the Toreros beat Vanderbilt in the first round, in the first game of the Corvallis Regional. Bryson Motts was outstanding in that particular game. Big congratulations to Bryson Motts for making his major league debut. San Diego kid pitched pretty well against the Brewers. He had a bad inning early in the contest. He kept the Cardinals in the game, but really cool to see another local kid make his major league debut. And we have a ton of San Diego kids that are playing in Major League Baseball right now, whether it be San Diego born and raised, high school products, or kids that played at local San Diego colleges. Pretty great for Bryson Motts to make his debut. On a sadder note, I got this information last week, and it was in the paper this morning or over the weekend. The passing of Jerry Ralph. You know, Jerry Ralph was a phenomenal high school football coach here in town. He coached at Santana. He coached at St. Augustine. He coached at Hoover. He coached at El Camino. He was the head coach at all of those places. He is somebody that I have known for a long period of my life because my dad was Jerry's best man at his wedding. And so it was hard to hear that news because of the person I knew as a kid when my dad coached with Jerry at Santana as his defensive coordinator, at St. Augustine High School, and then again as he coached them in an assistant role at Jerry's alma mater at University of San Diego High School, otherwise known as Cathedral Catholic, when his son DJ was playing at Cathedral. And DJ, phenomenal human being, phenomenal kid, played at Cathedral and went on to play at San Diego State for a little bit. But, you know, it was tough to watch kind of the way that near the end of Jerry's life and what he went through and what obviously he put his family through. So it was some tough news to hear about Jerry Ralph's passing over the weekend. But, you know, when he was a high school football coach, and he had his problems and everything like that, but he wanted the best for his kids. He was a great offensive mind. I know he touched a lot of players' lives because when he was struggling near the end of his life, so many of former players of Jerry and former coaches and people, that lives were impacted by him, tried to help him throughout this, time of his life and unfortunately near the end of his life. But he was a great guy, and really meant well in the high school football community. And, he's going to be missed in the San Diego high school football community. And, the last couple of years, obviously, were not very great, but it was still sad news, I think, for a lot of people to see that. And I thought John Maffey did a pretty good job, really good job of talking about the life of Jerry Ralph in the paper today. So wanted to pass that along as well. Obviously some tough news, but it's been tough news for a lot of people that knew Jerry, and for people that knew him even closer than maybe me and my family did. So that was some tough news. To go back to a positive note, a little bit of a shout out, if you will. Shout out to Nikki Patrick in our YouTube chat, celebrating a birthday today. Happy birthday to Nikki, one of my friends that throws us on in the background. Just got back from the Coca-Cola 600 from over the weekend, and I told Frank, I mean, at one point, Nikki, to celebrate, he went out there to celebrate his birthday, to go watch the Coca-Cola 600. At one point, he said, with the rain, everything in Charlotte, there could be a good possibility that I flew all the way out to Charlotte for 3 days to sit in a hotel room, eat junk food, and buy merch from NASCAR. But you know what? He was able to watch some of the race, but a big happy birthday to our guy, Nicky P. We saw, Crum came back from the Indy 500. So many people sent him the clip of us talking about the ketchup thing. So funny. It's a gift that keeps on giving. Mike Crum sometimes. All right, let's talk about what we wanted to get into in this particular segment. We got through some of the local news and notes, if you will. And that is the conversation about some notes that happened over the weekend with the Padres. Now, there was a couple of things that Bob Nightingale put in his weekly Sunday hit that he does on USA Today. And it's in his Around the Base Pass portion of his Sunday notebook, if you will. And the two most glaring things to me that popped up were involving the Padres and involving the conversation about adding an arm at the deadline. The first thing that was talked about was the Tarik Skubal situation. Tarik Skubal is increasingly viewed around baseball as a legitimate trade candidate if the collapsing Tigers fully commit to selling. Tigers just snapped an 8-game losing streak with the win they had yesterday. Rival executives reportedly believe 4 teams are positioned as likely finalists for Tarik Skubal. The New York Yankees, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the San Diego Padres. Skubal's combination of ace-level dominance and manageable remaining contract makes him arguably the most valuable pitcher potentially available. The key question is whether the Padres possess enough prospect capital to compete with deeper farm systems like the Dodgers or the Yankees. I bring this up because I find it interesting that that's getting floated out there. I think we've seen more about the next thing we're going to talk about. But to me, unless it guarantees that Tarik Skubal signs a contract extension with the Padres, I don't know. And there's a lot of time. Like, you got to go through the rest of May, got to get through all of June, and really all of July to determine what kind of team this Padres team is. The Padres, to me, have to improve their offense mightily for you to think about investing everything into a rental of Tarik Skubal. Realistically. Because, again, he's a Boris client. He's going to test free agency. And unless this is about acquiring Skubal and then convincing him that the new ownership's going to make a big splash and you have him on your team for a long period of time, I just don't... as great as it would be to have him, I don't know if it's worth this team right now having that be your only trade at the deadline. And I don't think you have enough capital to make another trade besides that. And if that's the only move you make, Frank, I don't know if that's enough to be the team that you need to be, considering the circumstances of that's assuming everything stays status quo right now with the offense, and that's a big problem.
Yeah, there's no shot right now that this team is good enough to consider going after
to sell out for just one starting pitcher.
Exactly. Tarik Skubal is not going to make the difference. Again, the pitching is not the problem. We talk about it with San Diego FC during the updates and how everyone wants Chucky Lozano back. Nothing that San Diego FC's problem is will be solved by Chucky Lozano coming back. Nothing that the Padres' issues is going to be solved by going all out for Tarik Skubal for 2 months. It's not going to lead to a World Series. Now, Skubal can pitch 7 scoreless innings, but if the other guy's doing the same thing, it doesn't really help you. you can get that from any of your other starters right now. You can get 5, 6, possibly 7 scoreless innings from any of the other starters that you have.
And as we piece this together in the last hour, when you start to understand this next point is, I don't think the Padres want to put everything into just getting an additional starter. Then you move to the offense needs some glaring holes, but the only areas of need are the ones that the Stars are currently playing. There's not really a lot of instances in which you want to acquire somebody to replace the guys that are currently hitting on your team, because those are the only ones that you can upgrade in terms of this overall roster. And then that leads to why the Padres are probably looking for bullpen reinforcements. And that was in Bob Nightingale's article. Now, he mentions 2 names. One of them was the same as last week. One of them is not. And he reports that San Diego is searching aggressively for bullpen help despite already owning one of baseball's strongest relief units. And the names that he included on this on his Sunday notebook were Aroldis Chapman, which we've heard of before, and Antonio Senzatella. The front office appears concerned about overworking the bullpen amid rotation instability and injuries. The signals the Padres may view relief depth as critical for surviving the second half and October. I think that brings up a good point. And this starts to make a lot more sense when you start breaking down how you would go about upgrading your offense, how would you go about upgrading your starting rotation, what it would cost, and is it really worth it? And to me, it makes a lot of sense now why the Padres are targeting bullpen reinforcements, especially since they're using them, one, a lot right now, but also based on what they can afford, it makes sense that these are the players that they might be looking for in terms of reinforcements.
Yeah, and I haven't really seen, I'm trying to take a look at it right now, but I haven't seen too much of what Antonio Senzatella
has done for the Rockies.
Yeah, he right now looking at
1.13 ERA. 4-0 with a 1.13 ERA. He's not starting games
like
anymore.
He was.
He's in the bullpen. He's got 3 saves. So he has been a solid bullpen piece for Colorado. I mean, those are pretty good numbers. And if not you, but if people are going to knock the Rockies for their offensive numbers being skewed, you have to immediately look at Antonio Senzatella's pitching numbers and go, those are really good.
Especially
on top of the fact that they're already good for standard pitching.
Here's his career ERAs from 2017 to most recent.
So bad.
468, 438, 671, 344 in 2020. 442, 507, 470, 657, and 665. This is almost looking like a Brady Anderson year. But again, the big issue, the big change, though, is he's not starting games. You're right. He's sitting in the bullpen now.
All of those years you listed,
he's a starter.
He's a starter. Now, his first year in Colorado, he had 16 appearances where he didn't start.
He had 7 last year where he did not start either.
Correct. I guess we could probably look at his splits of bullpen and starter, but at this point in time, Antonio Senzatella as a bullpen arm has been electric, and maybe that's a cheaper arm that they can acquire.
He pitched in 30 games last year. He is half of that this year, and he's already matched his win total. He's 4-0 this year through 15 appearances. He was 4-15 last year through 30 appearances.
Racking up wins as a bullpen arm is usually not the greatest thing ever.
No, it's not.
He is 7 wins away from tying his career high win mark of 11 that he had in 2019. So I find that interesting, the Nightingale piece over the weekend in terms of the around the base pass and what to expect. He also talked about Fernando Tatis Jr. and his power outage becoming alarming. He's now gone. This was going into Sunday, so he's obviously added plate appearances since then. Fernando has gone 215 plate appearances without a home run. His last homer came on September 27, 2025. Again, this was written on Sunday. And in the article, it notes among his last 47 plate appearances, 42 outs were either strikeouts or groundouts. I think he's improved on that since this article was written because of the fact that he's hitting 344 in his last 9 games and he's on a 9-game on-base streak. The quality of contact and the overall offensive profile seems to be the concern, according to Bob Nightingale. For a player viewed as a franchise superstar, the prolonged absence of power is becoming one of the biggest storylines surrounding the Padres. It is, on top of the fact that Manny Machado is not producing and Jackson Merrill is not having a great year. But it's interesting that this is part of this conversation because Kathy in LA, who commented on our YouTube stream, said, and she's a fan of she's from Kansas City. She's a fan of the Royals too. She listens to Kansas City radio as well. And she says in the YouTube chat, listening to Kansas City Sports Talk, they're saying that since the fans in San Diego seem to despise Tatis so much, they'll take him in a heartbeat. I guarantee you they're not the only fan base that's thinking that. I bet you 29 other fan bases would love to have Fernando despite his struggles right now.
28.
Think the Mets don't want him?
No, I couldn't imagine him getting all that warmer reception to Chavez Ravine.
Are you kidding me? If the Dodgers acquired Tatis, you don't think they'd be stoked? They'd be stoked. Let's not get crazy here. You're telling me they wouldn't want him?
I don't think the fan base would be all that stoked. I think they would want him, but they'd be like, "You're a Padre."
I don't think they're like that as much. I mean, everybody says that until as long as you help the team, who cares? I don't think they're going to be like upset. I bet you the Dodgers would take Manny right now. Not the organization, but I bet you the fans would come up to it. They would, because I mean, come on, they would. They're not going to be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we acquired this guy." 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. The last thing that I got out of this that I thought was interesting around the base pass, it has nothing to do with the Padres. They had some other stuff too. Like he had stuff on Rock Chalowski and the Giants being locked in on drafting Rock Chalowski, the shortstop for UCLA, who's a really good player. Watched him play last year. Craig Kimbrell's Hall of Fame chances fading. Bryce Harper might compete in the home run derby this year, something he hasn't done in a long time, but he'll do it if he makes the All-Star team since it's in Philadelphia. Royce Lewis' career trending in the wrong direction. They talk about Mariners clubhouse culture. They have an analytic debate, right, that you talked about because of the fact the NBA, who was in the NBA that criticized the analytic people?
Josh Hart.
Josh Hart was like all over guys like Brian Kenny and stuff. So that's all in this article. But this is the one that I thought was the most interesting. There's a couple of things that came out on Ohtani this week that with Artie Moreno and just like his inability to make good decisions in Anaheim. I forget who the other star player was because Adam brought it up to me, but like
it was
who was it?
Caballero, I believe.
Oh, it was Candelario? It was the guy for the Rays, right?
Yeah, Caballero.
Is that who it was?
Not Candelario. I think it was.
I thought he was talking about the guy that wore Manny Machado's number in the All-Star in the WBC.
Oh no, it was Junior Caminero. Caminero and Carson Williams.
So
along with other people.
Not only did Artie Moreno and the Angels say no to an Ohtani trade for Jackson Merrill, because that's been leaked out there as well. They also turned down a trade to the Rays for Junior Caminero. And on top of that, this is the most. Did you read this article?
No.
So I'll be
hearing this for the first time.
Shohei Ohtani. Then they get to free agency. Shohei Ohtani reportedly would have returned to the Angels if owner Artie Moreno matched the deferred structure of the Dodgers deal. The Angels were apparently offered a chance to keep Ohtani at roughly the same financial framework as the Dodgers. Moreno declined once the total value exceeded expectations. The report reinforces the narrative that Ohtani generally considered staying before ultimately joining the Dodgers. So Artie Moreno could have traded Ohtani to the Padres for a massive group that included, which probably would have included James Wood and all those. Basically, he turned down the deal that the Padres sent to the Nationals for Juan Soto, except it would have had Jackson Merrill in it. The Angels turned down a potential to have Junior Caminero headline a big package of Rays prospects coming up. And then Shohei Ohtani gets a contract offer from the Dodgers for whatever. What was it, like $600 million or whatever it is? $700 million with deferred money. And he offered that to the Angels just to match. He'll re-sign with the Angels. And Artie Moreno said, no, I'm not spending $700 million. Unbelievable. The Dodgers are benefiting from the Angels' incompetence. Why wouldn't you? It's deferred money. That's like the whole conversation about the benefit the Dodgers have is the deferred money thing. He'd be paying them like $2 million a year right now in Anaheim. God, what a world that would have been. What a world. You know what? At least they have a great ballpark experience with opossums and rats running around at Angel Stadium at the Big A. Are you kidding me? What a report from Bob Nightingale. Ohtani gets the contract offer from the Dodgers. They go back to the Angels, go like, he will sign right now for this exact deal. All you got to do is match it, and most of the money is deferred. And they said no.
Do you want Shohei Ohtani for $2 million a year? Or
that you have to pay later. And by the way, almost every company in Japan is going to buy out all your sponsorships. You're going to have enough money to build your own stadium.
Which,
my God.
Or he can go about 30 minutes up to 5
and go to
LA proper.
Right.
And play with an organization that knows what they're doing.
I'm going to ask you, like, that deal gets offered to the Padres. They go, yes. They sign it. They're like, yeah, sure, whatever.
I'm not even going to.
The contract's going to pay itself.
I'm not even going to let you finish. Just give me the pen. Give me the pen.
Here's the contract. We already wrote it up. We already wrote it up for you. Sign it, please.
Give me the pen.
The Angels, man. We were way overdue of a break. We got to go to break. The Angels just never cease to amaze. Bob Nightingale gave up some grades at the Memorial Day break. We'll tell you if we agree with them when we come back. We only got a couple minutes here, so we're going to get to a phone call quickly, and then we'll get to some of those grades and get you prepared. And a preview of Padres and Phillies game 2. Padres trying to even up the series tonight. First pitch will be at 6:40. Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show at 5:40 with Sam Levitt. Gwen and Chris will be on after us on the Braden Surprenant Show here on San Diego's #1 sports station 97.3 The Fan. We are broadcasting live for the Bill House Studios. We know how. No guests today, but all of our guests join us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bank Banking, it's better. Let's get out to Derek in La Mesa. Derek, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, brother? It's a little gloomy in our beautiful city of San Diego, kind of like the Padres offense, huh?
Yeah, you know what? Padres offense has picked up the May Gray, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Frank, it's been a while since we've talked. We kind of went into a little bit of a slide, but never fear. I'm always here to educate you, Frank. So today I thought I'd educate you on a little poetry. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Japanese haiku poetry, but it comes in 3 strains, right? Mm-hmm. Strain number 1 consists of 5 syllables. Strain number 2 has 7 syllables. And then we return to 5 syllables with strain 3. And if you add up those 3 numbers, Frank, what do you get?
How many times do we have to say, don't do math on the air?
Well, okay. You know what, Frank? I'll spoil it for you, brother. 5 plus 7 plus 5 equals 17. And did you happen to see Arson Fudge's walk-off number 17 winner on Sunday, Frank?
I did not. No, I missed it.
Not your week to watch.
Yeah. That is unfortunate. Yankee Stadium erupted.
That's
anyway,
cool.
guys, have a great day.
Hold
Japanese haiku.
Hold on. We
Go
got
ahead.
got some education for you now.
Oh, how the tables have turned.
Yeah, how the turns table.
Nice, Michael Scott.
What number does the Oregon logo look like?
Oh, here we go.
Well, that would be a 0, Frank.
Yeah, that's exactly how many home runs Arson Fudge hit against the Mets a couple weekends ago.
Hey, touche. They also took 2 out of 3. That was a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah, they did. It was quite it's embarrassing. It's only embarrassing from a certain perspective. The correct one, it was actually quite awesome.
All right. Hey, you guys have a great day. Frank, I'm sure we'll talk soon, buddy.
Thank you, Derek.
The build-up is great. He went to a haiku today. What does that all add up? It gets me. I love hearing that. The bit just won't die. You want to know why? Because of the fact that I don't know what he's going to come up with next. That's so creative.
Go ahead, text. The reason why is because he's Derek's an Oregon fan also.
He's an Oregon fan.
That's why.
He's from Oregon. He's an Oregon fan. But I thought you were going to save that one and drop it at the end of the year. But you know what? That worked out.
I mean, if they hit.
Not bad for thinking off the cuff. You didn't have time to really plot it out too much.
No.
That was turntables. You got somebody screaming at his radio right now. It's like, it's the tables have turned. Has never watched The Office before in his life. English are hard.
It is.
Nice job trying to play off the fact that you want to do math on the air.
You know what? I mean, as the turntables.
Here we go.
Get a fresh paint of coat on your English vocabulary. Be all right. Figure it out.
Okay. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973.
The real Smash the Numbers has come. He has joined the chat.
He jumped off of his burner, Smarsh.
Yeah, Smash. There's been an imposter all show, bud.
Smarsh the Numbers. I think Smarsh the Numbers was funnier. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we will talk about the letter grades for the first third of the season, where the Padres are at, according to Bob Nightingale, whether or not we agree with it. Also, Padres and Phillies coming up tonight. And Frank's got an update on what happened in the San Diego FC match over the weekend before they go to an international break.
It's nothing good.
Something you really want to talk about, but we're here to talk about it. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Suburban Sports Station 97 through the Fan. Perfect timing today, Frank. Last segment of the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's Home Sports Station, 97.3 The Fan. We got three things that we do want to still get to before the end of the show, leading you into Gwen and Chris, and then the Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt. 5:40, first pitch, 6:40, Padres baseball, trying to even up the series at 1 against the Phillies. That will be something that we end the show with. But we'll start with what was a rough weekend for San Diego FC. As we talked about it last week, we've continued to talk about it, how San Diego FC needs to be able to come out of these problems that they have, especially defensively. They have dug themselves into a massive hole, and now they head into the World Cup break on a bad loss from over the weekend, Frank, and it wasn't a good one.
Yeah, no, they looked completely outmatched. They looked completely outclassed. It was not a good game for them whatsoever. And now you have a month and a half to sit on that. It's you're purely licking your wounds at this point and trying to reset what was a completely broken first half of the season for this team, a complete opposite from what we saw last year with this team just dominating everything. And not even last year, from the start of this year as well. It looked like they were going to pick up right where they left off. And now with the Padres where they are and what San Diego FC is doing right now, this came at the perfect time in more ways than one. They look completely uncompetitive against the team that they played in the Western Conference Final last year. Now with the World Cup, they can sit back, try to regroup, look at some of the things that have gone wrong over the first half of this season, and also take a good long look at the transfer window, because that is coming up. That opens in July, and figuring out when the new calendar year for soccer begins, they can use a lot. Attack is fine. They could really use some veteran defenders. They've tried it with the kids for too long, I think. This year, they got some good results out of them and some good moments out of them during the MLS playoffs last year. But doing it for a full season, it's proving that it is not working out, and they need some veteran help on that back line if they want to recapture some of that form that they had last year.
The fact of the matter is, when you decide to go young for any type of sport, when you go young, the idea is they're going to get better, and you're going to have a younger, more athletic group that's going to have a lot more experience than just going with the veteran guys. But right now, for San Diego FC, the youth is not getting better each and every game. In fact, a lot of the times they're getting worse, and they're costing them a lot of matches right now. And I don't know how much longer you can keep rolling out that experiment without changing what you do on the defensive end. Because again, the attack has been fine all year. You have some really good players on the attack, but the defense and that back line for San Diego FC, the inexperience has really put you behind the eight ball.
Yeah, David Vasquez is looking like a genuine star. Every time you see him on the pitch, it's all attention on him. He is looking like a genuine star player. Brian Zambele had a goal. He's another young kid. I believe he had a goal in the Champions Cup earlier this year. And they just, but Vancouver just way, way, way too good for them at this stage. And for Luca Bombino, he's another one of those young kids who they threw into the starting role, gets another red card, 9 in 19 matches this year. That is an obscene amount of red cards. And Mikey Varas, after the match, kind of threw MLS officiating under the bus, saying that while, yes, we have definitely earned some of the red cards that we've gotten, but a lot of them are ticky-tacky, like could go either way, fouls that are getting called. So it is a league problem. Yes, there have been a high amount of red cards that have been called, but San Diego FC also has to stop putting themselves in a bad position like they have been in getting these red cards as well.
That's exactly what they've been doing. I mean, they've been putting themselves in bad spots, and unfortunately, you can't overcome those all the time, and you saw that again on Saturday. So a break with the World Cup coming up. We'll be having some World Cup updates for you on the show over the next couple of months or so as they get dialed in. 2 teams have listed their, all of the countries have listed their host cities, if you will, or their base camps. San Diego is hosting 2. Switzerland will be practicing at San Diego Jewish Academy here in town. And New Zealand is being hosted by the University of San Diego. So cool to have some World Cup teams here in San Diego.
Brother is just allergic to work today.
I know, just terrible. Allergic to actually sneezing, though. It's like you get to the point of like sneezing, and then I just can't sneeze, which is unfortunate. Let's get out to the phones. Dexter in Spring Valley wants to weigh in. What's going on, Dexter? Hopefully you enjoyed your 3-day weekend.
It was fun, gentlemen. I am so glad that you guys started talking about football, because I've been dying to share this with you guys for a while since this weekend. Now, granted, the connection is going to be loose, but work with me. Chucky Lozano for SDFC today is what David Boston, the wide receiver, was for the Chargers back in the 90s. You know, it was Boston was a highly coveted wide receiver. He was like he had a linebacker, tight end body, but he had the finesse and the speed in the hands of a receiver. And the Chargers went hard and got him as a free agent. Much like how the Chrome and Azul went after Chucky, they went hard after him as well, to be part of the club. Ironically, once David Boston got here, he became a real albatross around their neck. He started getting before Aaron Rodgers, he was Aaron Rodgers. He started doing all these weird and wacky things. Then he became tried to become football's version of Dennis Rodman with the tats, the crazy hair, and all the weird attention and everything. Eventually, the Chargers were able to unload him to Miami for some low round draft picks, but they were done with him, and Miami picked up his contract. I'm really hoping that, the Chrome will be able to do something similar with Chucky, because he is an albatross around their neck. And if they're not going to play him, then, they got to do something, cut bait and, get whatever they can for him and, move along. Hopefully he'll do really well in the World Cup, and there'll be some teams that'll be interested in picking him up in spite of the fact that they know that he's a real pain in the neck. I don't know what your take is on that, Frank, but I'd like to hear it. And before I go, as always, go Padres.
Thank you, Dexter. No fouls on Dexter today.
No fouls.
I remember David Boston. He's spot on. That was 2003. They picked up David Boston. He was a Pro Bowler for the Cardinals in 2001. He spent 4 seasons with the Cardinals, and David Boston was such a huge free agent pickup for the Chargers. And then he just, as he said, just was a circus around him. And after he went to Miami, that was it. He had 1 year in Miami, and he didn't play ever again. He only played one season in San Diego. He missed all of 2004 with an injury. David Boston. You know what I think about David Boston when I hear that name? You know what I think of? You're never going to guess this. NFL Street. He's on the Chargers roster for NFL Street.
Is. Yep.
I still have that game. I have a PS2 just for NFL Street, like the first one. But like the rosters, you want to hear the roster for that for the Chargers?
Go for it.
If I can find it on like a wiki page here.
Well, while you're doing that, I don't think Lozano was called for Mexico's World Cup roster. So I don't think he made that.
I don't think he made it either.
And San Diego FC has said that they are going to attempt to move him.
They have to, because he's counting as one of their designated players.
Yeah, so San Diego FC is trying to move them. But again, with how soccer works and how the international football world works, you only have two options. You only have two opportunities to transfer people. And those are during the transfer windows, which are July and August at the start of the international soccer year, and January. Those are the only two times. So between those two windows, you're stuck with who you have.
The Chargers roster on NFL Street. Ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Steven Alexander, wide receiver David Boston, quarterback Drew Brees, DB Sammy Davis, wide receiver Timmy Dwight, linebacker Donnie Edwards, offensive lineman Tanu Fanati, I forget how to pronounce his name, DB Quentin Jammer, defensive line Rayleigh Johnson, linebacker Ben Lieber, running back LaDainian Tomlinson, and defensive lineman Marcellus Wiley. That was your NFL Street roster for the Chargers. That was a heck of a game. What a fun game that was as a kid. EA Big or whatever it was called. They had like the NFL Street. They had like the Slugfest baseball where you can get into fights and stuff.
Slugfest baseball was great. Loved that.
What about your New York Giants? Remember your New York Giants roster for the NFL Street?
Oh, I didn't have the game at the time. I did not have the game at the time.
Will Allen, Tiki Barber.
Yeah, Barber would have been there. I don't know. I think Kerry Collins.
Kerry Collins was the quarterback.
Oh, he was still there.
Ike Hilliard, Mike Barrow, Kenny Holmes.
Amari Toomer.
Toomer is the wide receiver.
I'm assuming Jeremy Shockey was there.
Wide receiver. Offensive lineman Luke Pettigout.
Luke Pettigout. I don't think Antonio Pierce was
no,
there. That was just before.
Michael Strahan.
Yeah, Strahan, obviously, lineman. Yes.
Defensive lineman. It's a fun game. You start looking at some of the quarterbacks on these teams. Crazy. Let's get out to Juan in Oceanside. Juan, you're on the Braden Surprenant show. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Just wanted to add one last comment. I know show's ending soon about San Diego FC. I guess Coach Vada said that they are going after a quote-unquote elite winger. Not sure who exactly that is or who they're looking at. That makes me wonder if the Mo Salah conversation is going to heat up during the transfer window. Just wanted to get yours and Frank's thoughts on that.
That would be huge. He's a free agent. They've already said that Liverpool is not bringing him back for this year. There's a lot of big name international free agents that have a lot of that name cachet, and Mo Salah obviously being one of the bigger ones. But he's been linked to San Diego FC for quite some time. I believe because of the international player limit that Chucky Lozano falls under, I believe Lozano is going to have to go before they can bring Salah in, or they could just buy him out.
They have to get a new they cannot have a designated player not play. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. I don't know if it's going to work out for San Diego FC. I mean, he's one of the players that you can spend unlimited funds on. You can't have that player just work out at San Diego FC all the time and not play. And I'm not saying they have to bring him on the team because I think that ship has definitely sailed.
Yeah,
but
he shouldn't be playing.
They need an actual designated player. Bold prediction tonight for Padres and Phillies.
I know it's the show gimmick because we're
Are you
always
actually
right.
going for it now?
I am going to legitimately. I believe it is. I believe it happens tonight. I think Fernando hits a home run tonight.
Okay.
Like I genuinely feel that way. I believe if he's going to do it tonight, it'll probably be second at bat off of Austin Nola or Aaron Nola, whichever Nola.
Manny does not strike out.
Ooh.
That's tough. That's bold.
That's
Manny
a
does
rough
not
one.
strike out. That's my bold prediction. Did you hear? I think one of the stats was that the Rays broadcaster put out that 70% of MLB teams that win outscore their opponent in one inning. So they score more runs in the one inning than the team does in the entire game. 75% of MLB teams that win.
I believe that.
We'll see if that's the case tonight. Braden Surprenant Show, Settings Roman Sports Station, 97 through the Fan. Quinn and Chris coming up next.